Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Brad Nelson. I'm joined by the one, the only. You can say your own name if you want to.
Ross Merriam.
It's Ross Merriam. That's right. And we're here for the Mana Traders top 8 for September. We're playing standard. And we had some predictions yesterday during the Swiss about what was going to be in top 8. And I'm going to let you take it away. What do we have?
So, unsurprisingly, it's a lot of black decks. It is,
Yep.
in fact, all black decks.
Yes.
And at the top of our metagame were Grixis midrange and Esper midrange. Those are our two most represented decks with 4 copies of Grixis, 2 of Esper. And then if you are, not a fan of those two, your two heroes are going to come at the bottom of our standings. They're going to be on the draw a lot. It
No,
is,
in the Mana Traders series, it's random pairings.
oh yeah, because
It, it
Muramoto.
it reflects the MTGO league structure.
Ah, okay. So they were the two players that snuck in actually at X2. I'll say that
Yep.
at 5 and 2, we had two players do that, and that's Lavunga 21, Mateus Lavarado playing Rakdos Sacrifice, and MTG Holic Winston
Yeah.
Chamora playing Jund midrange. So another sort of tricolor, deck that has a triome in
Yep.
standard with black, but a little bit different than our Grixis and Esper pilots. So those are our two, singleton decks. That's a lot of Grixis, a lot of Esper, and interestingly, 4 Grixis decks are all in different sections of the bracket. So it is still possible for our top 4 to be 4 Grixis midrange decks, which would
That
be a dominant
Yeah,
performance
I
to
I
say the
would want
least.
I would wanna see a little variety in top 4. That also means that Grixis might not even make the top 4.
True. Yeah, we could
Yes,
see anywhere from 0 to 4.
that is very true, and yeah, so we've also got some awesome players that made top 8 as well. We watched a lot of Mental Misstep yesterday, pilot Grixis really well. We've got Simon Nilsson, who was playing Esper. We also got to see a little of that. Gul Dukat, here's the bracket for everyone. Gul Dukat's Grixis deck is the one that I actually liked the most of just the cleanness of that list. So I'm really excited to hopefully see them in the top 4. But our feature match that we're going to be watching today in the quarterfinals is Mateus Leverado playing Rakdos Sacrifice. Piloted really well yesterday. A unique deck that's designed to actually attack all of these, you could say, bloated for the mirrors, Esper and Grixis mid-range decks. So yeah, let's take a look at Luis Salvato's list. Luis will be playing against Mental Misstep playing Grixis. Eh, Matias, excuse me. Sorry, yes. I was looking at Luis Salvato not making it and then got that confused. Yeah, Matias Leverado, uh, Rakdos sacrifice list. Ross, can you tell me a little bit about this list and what you like about it in this Grixis Esper metagame?
So yeah, I mean, we've seen lists like this before. We actually see it in Pioneer as well. But the real central cards and what separates this from just your typical black, red based mid range deck is Onicult Anvil and Experimental Synthesizer. Anvil, a very powerful card, not only with the synthesizer, really good way to use up treasure tokens and blood tokens that your decks generate from things like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Blood Tithe Harvester, and Voldaren Epicure. Turn those into 1/1s and more, life gain and life loss for your opponent, that drain effect. And then Experimental Synthesizer, a great source of card advantage, but importantly, a very cheap source of card advantage. That front side costs 1. By itself, you can sack it for that 3 mana, get the second trigger. You can also just sack it to the anvil and have all your mana untapped to maybe hit a more expensive card like Meathook Massacre or a Shieldred, be able to still cast that and make sure you leverage the extra card. And the reason I like this deck in this metagame was something we talked about yesterday, and that you had noted about this metagame. It is a very mid-range dominated format, but it is not battle cruiser magic. We're not playing out the early turns and just waiting for these really powerful, 5, 6, and 7 mana cards to drop to dominate the game. Because, our most popular decks are all playing blue, they all have a good amount of counter spells. You can't really go over the top of them that way. So, what you have to do is stay very lean, very cheap cards, but cards that are able to generate a cascading advantage. That's why things like, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Wedding Announcement, Reckoner, Bank Buster, these are all really popular cards in the current metagame. And Rakdos Sacrifice plays that game really, really well because of Anvil and Synthesizer being additional cards that you can play on top of things like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Meathook Massacre, another great card in the format that this deck takes advantage of really well, because you're constantly sacrificing creatures and generating triggers. So I think this deck really thrives in a metagame where you're trying to be low to the ground, but also have a lot of card advantage to be able to play into the long game. So
Yeah,
I'm excited to see it.
I think you hit it on the head there because all of these decks are playing Meat Hook Massacre, a card that makes it very difficult for these aggressive decks to actually compete. And one of the reasons why we don't see any of them in this top eight. But in a metagame full of that card, a deck like Rakdos Sacrifices is really interesting because it never feels like you're putting all your eggs in one basket. Even if you're dumping creatures onto the battlefield, they're coming with additional value alongside them. So even if you get a few things swept away, you got value out of those threats. So another thing I do want to point out about this deck is how all these blood tokens synergize with Children. One of the coolest things that we saw um, this deck do was get a very low life total against an aggressive deck, but on a key turn, play Children, pop 2 blood tokens, gain 4 life, and get through the turn.
Yeah, and sometimes that even happens in the mid-range mirrors. One of the other things that we saw was being able to get ahead doesn't mean that you're going to start going for the jugular right away to
Mm-mm.
end the game, but it does put your opponent into a precarious spot where now not only do they have to think, "Oh, how do I leverage my cards to generate the most value, make sure that I'm keeping up in this attrition fight, but I also have to protect my life total and make sure I don't die out of nowhere." So being able to, play a card like Shieldred and then stabilize your life total gets you back into the game so that you can start opening up your tactical flexibility, as I like to call it, and be able to play the game the exact way you want it to leverage your spells to the maximum.
I completely agree. Now let's take a look at who Lavunga is going to be up against with Mental Missteps Grixis mid-range list. If we can throw that slide up, there it is. And one of the interesting things about this strategy that I didn't really see before this weekend was trimming down on the actual creatures. Now Tenacious Underdog feels like an amazing 4 of that Esper wants to play, and I would never even consider taking out because you have Blood Tithe Harvester in the Grixis package and Corpse Appraiser. You don't really need to, and also let's not forget about Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You don't really need to go deep on a card like that, and so you get this really cool package of a lot of removal spells to enable your corpse appraisers, as well as even your 2-drop creature can be sacrificed to kill something to turn that on turn 3 as well. I was really impressed with just the engine that corpse appraiser allowed Grixis to continue to just churn through their deck yesterday.
Yeah, especially with a card like Soul Transfer, being able to, cast a card that is a 2-for-1 by itself and then return Corpse Appraiser that's another 2-for-1, and you get this sort of ball rolling. You know, I look at this version of Grixis, and they're all a little bit different in our top eight. We have four of them, but it's not the same list. This list actually is a little bit more creature heavy than some of our others
Yes.
and a little bit lower on the counter spells. Now, that might make you a little weaker in some matchups, but against a deck like Rakdos Sacrifice that is so low to the ground, I think that's actually quite a benefit. So this version of Grixis, just being able to play to the battlefield as much, make sure you don't fall behind, and have really powerful cards like Shieldred in your main deck. That the Rakdos Sacrifice deck isn't really that great at answering. That, but it does have some answers for being able to punish their blood tokens, punish when they draw off of different effects. I think is really going to serve them well in this specific matchup that they're seeing, even if it's a more unique one in the metagame.
Well, I mean, one of the things is if your removal doesn't interact that well against your opponent, you better have the threats to capitalize, and that's what this list does. So this is one of the worst, in my opinion, the worst Grixis decks that Leverado could face in this top 8.
Yeah,
Just having this high density of threats.
I completely agree. That said, I think Rakdos is pretty well situated in these mid-range fights. And the fact that you don't see a lot of good answers for Oni Cult Anvil. It's just the two copies of a Braid in the sideboard.
Mhm.
I think that is going to really, really help because Oni Cold Anvil is not only a card that generates a lot of value, it's a card that can be really tricky to even pressure your opponent through. They're constantly just generating more and more tokens. They can chump block them away. Maybe there's a Meathook Massacre on their side of the battlefield that's now eating away at your life total and buffing theirs. So I kind of like the Rakdos side. I'm going to be a little biased. I played quite a bit of Rakdos Sacrifice decks
Oh,
in
you
my
don't have to
day.
get me wrong. If we have to pick who's favored in the matchup, I agree. Rakdos, Matthias Lever is definitely favored. It's just like of the list that they
Yeah.
could face, this is one of the more challenging ones.
Yeah, and I think the margin by which he would be a favorite is tiny. So
Yes.
this is going to be super close, very intricate matchup. Every turn presents you with a lot of options. Do I lead Fable first? Do I lead Corpse Appraiser first? Do I just start drawing cards up right away with the Bank Buster? Do I let it stay on the battlefield for a while? You know, how aggressive is mental misstep supposed to use their make disappears. You know, that
You're
card
you're
can stay
you're
relevant
stressing me
long.
out with all these tough decisions. I'm just gonna let the players decide. Are the players seated? All right, great. Matches are going up, so we're gonna get to go. So, what are your predictions? Now we've two Esper, Grixis, a Jund, and this Rakdos sacrifice deck. Who do you think is taking it all the way?
I do think that Grixis has an edge in the Esper matchups, though Hake's list is a little bit different than most Esper decks. That's our
Mm-hmm.
legend-based list. That Esper list plays a little bit more to the battlefield with powerful threats, like several copies of AO and what is the vampire lord that keeps coming back for more? They got one copy of that I know. Edgar.
Oh,
Yeah.
Edgar, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Hake's list could sneakily take this one down because I doubt it's something that anybody is really prepared for. But overall, I think Grixis is going to do well in those matchups in the middle of our bracket. And I think the big one is that I'm not sure of is how well our Junda player would do because those workshop war chiefs are also really powerful in the Grixis matchup. So I kind of like the Grixis to take the middle of the bracket, but the edges of the bracket I kind of like our one of decks to take it, and that would leave Rakdos and Jund playing against Grixis the rest of the way. So honestly, I'm I'm kind of liking Jund and Rakdos to be in our
All right,
finals.
you are taking the two lone wolves going all the way up that play seventh and eighth against the big old bad Grixis and Esper. I love it. I love the underdog story. I'm not going to take it that way. My prediction, if I had to guess, we're going to have Simon Nilsson versus Goldicott finals.
So you're just taking the names.
No, no, I like their lists a lot. I like their play, and I think that that they're who I think I'm going to see in the finals. That's just no. It's not because I know them. Don't go there. Like it's not nepotism. I didn't test with Simon Nelson for many years of my life. It wouldn't be that.
Granted, I am taking a mythic champion into
I don't know what you're
Colorado.
talking about. Can we get a match going?
I believe which mythic championship did he
I
win?
don't know. No one cares.
Yeah,
Yeah, no one.
I'm trying to remember who he beat in that finals.
I don't think. I mean, I don't think you can Google that. It's not on the
He was
internet.
playing Nexus of Fate, right?
I don't remember. I
And
don't
then
even know
and
what
then
you're talking about.
Tron and Modern. Or is that the no? Tron was the other one. I thought it was a mixed format thing. I don't know.
It's Tron. Is an arena tournament.
It was, wasn't it? That
Yeah,
was one of the arena ones.
yeah. So there's no Tron.
It's a weird year
See,
to
that's why
remember.
we can't even trust your opinion on this. Like we can't trust your memory. Like, perfect. That's good. We can get out of this. Anyone that doesn't know what's happening, it's because he beat me in the finals of a tournament, and Ross likes to dig me.
That
For
is true. I like digging at Brad all the time. That's really the only reason I accepted this job.
all right, so here we are, and it seems like we are. Yeah, mental misstep did win the die roll.
So a little bit of justice being served where the higher seed wins the coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, I have learned over the years of playing challenges on Arena, you take the good with the bad.
Okay.
Yeah, and I played the last Mana Traders event I played was actually in December last year, and I snuck in an eighth and won the die roll all three matches. I still lost the finals, but I did win all three die rolls.
Would be something that I would be interested in seeing if the universe could compile it for us. Just show, of everyone who's played, 1,000 sanctioned magic matches in their career, paper matches, who's won the most die rolls.
I
'Cause obviously it collapses towards the middle, but you're still gonna have some distribution. There's gonna be some people that are, 52, 53%, and others that are 47, 48%.
so you believe me or not, I will probably say that it's washed. I have had good luck and bad luck.
Yeah.
It's obviously washed. But there was a worlds where I lost every single die roll, and then
Is
I
this old
complained
style
about
worlds that
this.
was 18 rounds?
No, it was like 12 or 14, whatever. It was like the new style worlds.
Sure.
And then I complained about it, and then I had a team tournament, and like BBD and Seth were like my teammates, and they're like, "You're complaining about this too much." Sorry, the game started real quick, and I lost all but one of our team die rolls in a standard format that it mattered a lot. Rakdos vehicles or whatever. But anyway, let's get into the action. We got a blood tithe harvester. I'll stop complaining. It's not too much fun to listen to.
No one drop from Lavunga here, so
Okay, so we might have some bad news for this top 8. The players have hand cam set up, but it's the tech is not working at the moment. So we might not have any hand cams.
So it does look as though Mental Misstep did take a mulligan here on the play, because I see them only having 8 cards on turn 3.
Uh,
Uh,
yes, and they missed a land drop.
yeah, no third land drop there. See if Lavunga can capitalize. They did not have a proactive play on turn 2, but did have the removal spell for the Harvester, so staying at parity. Oh, that's the best turn 3 play.
Yeah, but that's gonna be make
Oh,
disappear. I mean, that almost has to happen there. If you're stuck on lands,
oh yeah. So
third land, Corpse Appraiser potentially.
the make disappear certainly keeps Mental Misstep in this game. They hit the land, they're fine, but it does not look like they did.
Oh yeah, they are sacking that blood token.
Discarding a Soul Transfer, which is a very powerful card.
All right. Yeah, just not where you want to be because we've talked about this. Now, Shieldred is kind of that bomb. Is that a hand? We've
That's a
got
good hand.
that is a great hand, but we've got a hand cam. I am very excited about this.
Yeah, Misstep does hit their third land, and they had the Infernal Grasp on upkeep there to stop the Shieldred before it would trigger. So they're at parity, but this is a great hand from Lavunga. They've got some very good follow ups. They can start generating some card advantage here. So the synthesizer to do it.
Yeah, the problem here is when a board state looks like this, what has to happen is Mental Misstep has to start generating card advantage and hope that Lavunga is flooding.
Yeah,
And you can't get aggressive. You can't try to stop them from drawing cards because they have multiple avenues of it. You just have to find your own ways to generate some amount of value.
Abel here is going to help generate some treasures, start deploying the cards in his hand, and set up a card advantage engine potentially. Another synthesizer is a great draw from Lavunga here because they do have the anvil. Start comboing with those, generating card advantage at a low mana investment, and start generating some tokens.
And it does look like that's the way they're going to go. They're going to go, let's get onto the board. Let's use that because there's no 5 drop that you could end up drawing into. And there's
Yeah.
just another synthesizer.
And now anything but Shieldred, and they'll be fine. Yep,
Yeah.
hit a land drop. So they do have a good number of lands here, but it's all come off of a lot of extra cards.
Yeah. And there's still enough draw, right? We've got 2 more
Yeah.
cards off the Bank Buster. We've got 3 more off the 2 synthesizers.
Okay, so just 5 more extra cards.
Yeah, just a ton. All right. So this is a big loot and hopefully find something to do with mana. I could see even if there was a Corpse Praiser playing the Fable first, generate all this value, and then Corpse Praiser after that to help guarantee these land drops.
Yeah. And the other good thing for Lavunga here is all that mana can get sunk into this Meat Hook Massacre, which is then going to start really going off with the Oni Cult Anvil.
And I never thought of it as too threatening, but we saw many games just kind of pop off in the mid game with Meat Hook plus a bunch of anvils. It
Yeah.
really is just how it ends.
Yeah, we saw Salvato really steal a game where he's very
Hmm.
far behind by finding a second and third copies feel exactly lethal at the end of yesterday.
So we see a cut down and what is that?
Harvester.
Yes, a harvester. Go to the graveyard.
Okay. Looking at drawing a card with Bankbuster in combat. Interesting. Oh, potentially finding a Voltage Surge to deal
Yeah.
with that token before it makes a treasure. Makes sense. Why you see the Sulphur Springs get left up there.
Corpse Appraiser would be a really nice one to have right now.
Yeah. Find a fourth land as well. So 5 mana available here for Misstep. A Bankbuster is solid.
Yeah.
So they're going to start drawing some extra cards.
And we are settled in for the mid game. Both players have enough resources to continue to draw more resources. One damage comes through, chipping away, plays another synthesizer. This time deciding to cast the one out of hand.
Soul
Soul transfer. I
Transfer.
mean,
Does have doesn't have an enchantment. So I wonder if we'll see the Meat Hook get cast. Is there even a something to bring back with it? Yeah, there's the Shieldred. I wonder if we'll see the Meat Hook get cast for 0 here, just because that represents an extra card off the Soul Transfer.
does look like that might be the play. We got enough time to find another one of value.
Yeah, and getting it into play does have a lot of value with the Oni Cult Anvil as well. So the only awkward thing is that that leaves us without an answer to the reflection of Kiki Jiki. So that's where the pause I think is coming from
Yeah.
Lavunga here because that is a very powerful card in combination with Corpse Appraiser, in combination with Blood Tithe Harvester. Even with the Goblin, Shaman token generating 2 treasures a turn, will catch him back up. So
We still see it. Just going for it. Gonna say these synthesizers are gonna get me where I need to go.
yeah. Oh, we're getting a treasure off of this. We could make our land drop.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, just an good efficient use of mana here. Doesn't really need the treasure later on. We'd rather, get the counter off the Bank Buster. Okay.
Yeah, I can live with this.
Oh,
Brutal.
that is um so that's not a big punish for using the Bank Buster because you would have only had 1 mana left over.
Yeah.
But it does really punish for playing the meat hook because you didn't generate the extra card advantage, which is what you really wanted to get out of the meat hook. But you are now down
Oh,
the
real
answer.
we got another report real quick. Just in. We've got 2 hand cams, it seems. Oh, I just was seeing it. Yeah, it is not the right hand. Sorry. False alarm. All right, double blocking here.
Right? This could actually be a turning point in the game. Lavunga going for that play to try to generate max value with the soul transfer, leaving himself without the answer to the reflection.
So it does also actually with hand cams might not be updated because there's 4 cards in hand and they update. So I think they have another meat hook in hand. Unless the
Okay.
hands are either the hands. Oh, okay. The hand cam updated. Yeah. Yeah, we should just ignore these for now.
Okay. No answer to reflection also means no answer to the Shieldred. So we're gonna see some.
There's 5 cards in hand. We don't know exactly know which ones they are.
Yeah. Another meat hook would be excellent here. Um, just sweep the battlefield of these, leaves mental misstep very low on resources. But
Pain, man.
we
We're getting a token.
we're paying the mana for the synthesizer. Okay. Interesting. Doesn't hit anything too relevant there. Has that the fourth one?
Yeah, they've been drawing a lot of them.
But only hits an Epicure there. So some low impact hits off of these synthesizers. Now, Luvunga does have some life to play with, has a bunch of blockers. So the game is not going to end super quickly. He's going to be able to leverage both of these other synthesizers, look at some extra cards, but got 2 pretty big threats to try to answer. And if he wants to answer them with a Beathook Massacre, which is the cleanest way, you could run afoul of a third Make Disappear. There are 4 copies in Mental Missteps list.
All right, another Fable. That's going to let them, if they want. No, they're going to keep the mana. I'm curious about not making a token of that, and I guess getting in there is just for an extra treasure that you might need to tap that mana. All right.
So, looks like we have an updated hand cam, and we see 2 lands and some mopey creatures there for Vunga. So not a great hand. Does seem to be flooding a little bit.
Yeah, and this is kind of what needed to happen for Mental Misstep.
Yeah, he made a kind of risky, pretty aggressive play. Hard to say it was a mistake per se because there was definitely reasoning behind it. But certainly getting punished for that play. Once again, choosing to activate the synthesizer. I guess when you have that much mana, you might as well generate maximum value. Fable is a solid card because now we can turn some of these extra lands into more cards. But a little awkward in the face of Shieldred. It means 4 more damage if you discard 2 of them.
Which is something you might want to do because you can find another one of your own Childreds. You can find another meat hook to clean up the
Yeah.
board and deal a ton of damage. All right. Yeah, just passing the turn with a board of 6 creatures, 6 non-land,
Yeah.
non-creature.
A lot of permanents for Lwinga, but the most important permanent is on Mental Misstep side of the battlefield, and that is this Shieldred.
Yep, mental misstep deciding if they want to sack a treasure to make a 2/2 that'll get blocked by the 4/4
Eh,
that makes a treasure. All right, so they're going to draw off of their bank buster first before discarding. Because if there's ever a time to want to discard 2 cards to a Fable, it's when you have a Children in play.
Indeed. Do discard 2 lands, it looks like. Both players on 4 cards in hand here, and even though the, total permanent count is certainly in Lavunga's favor, the Shieldred is the card that is dominating this game. That is a precarious spot for Mental Misstep to be in because it means one good answer and, the house of cards fall.
All right, blood token is sacrificed, discarding one of those sulfur springs. Yeah, this feels like a very key turn.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised not to have seen the Epicure and Harvester get cast last turn because I would have left Lavunga on 3 blood tokens and would force a removal spell for the Harvester. Otherwise, that could answer the Shieldred.
If it's in hand, we
Yeah.
we can't trust that hand cam. I'm assuming it is because how did it get there? All right, big combat.
Now, this to me signals a voltage surge because that could finish off the Shieldred no matter what it blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the other blocks are all trades or you're losing material you don't care about. I would not be surprised at 23 life if Mental Misstep only blocks with the token they just made with this reflection. Maybe offers a trade with their own Goblin Shaman if they want to, or yeah, blocks the Epicure, that's fine. Then trade token Shaman for actual Shaman. Maybe you want a Vigilant token instead, but
Okay, there it is. I was like, we're gonna see that block, right? Okay.
oh, rethinks it. Hey, decides to just get max val. Well,
No,
that
it's
token's going
going
away anyway.
away.
Yeah, weird.
It will go away at end of turn, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
maybe trying to take artifacts off the battlefield, but the Shaman generates artifacts, so trading there accomplishes that goal as well.
Another Fable? Oh no, sacrificing the synthesizer.
No more synthesizers for Lavunga. Another Harvester.
Yeah, without the children in play, this would be
Looks like the Epicure was in hand, and let's see if we see the other Harvester because that'll be 2 cards threatening to answer the Shielded the following turn. I think that Harvester may have been discarded to a Fable. Wilkinson gets channeled. So a couple more creatures for Mental Misstep. Unlikely to really get through here. And the Meathook Massacre and Oni Cold Anvil, helping Lavunga buy time here against the Shieldred, counteracting the life loss. So it really is, I think the onus in this game is still on Mental Misstep to try to turn the position around outside of the Shieldred so that you're not just depending on Lavunga never finding an answer.
yes, it's still a tough, that's tough to ask for. Especially with that attack having to play around Surge, you can't really meat hook. And so if you can't meat hook, then you have to have an actual answer for the harvester. And if you don't have just the targeted answer for it, then you're probably losing the Shieldred. Oh, there it is. That is your answer.
Yeah. Blood Harvester with reflection, very powerful. And now we have a second reflection. That is a combo that could take over this game.
Yes.
We could see, 7 Blood Harvesters on one turn just completely decimate
All
Lavunga's side of the battlefield.
right. Let's see if Livonia I feel like, has one more big key turn to get out of this.
But not really any card advantage left to dig. There's a blood token that can see an extra card, cost of 2 life, but all the synthesizers have been used, all the counters on their bank buster have been used, and the Fable has already hit its second chapter. So it really is going to have to come in the next 2 draw steps.
All right, reflection is made. What's going to happen?
Another harvester. Is that the one that we've seen in their hand?
I'm assuming so.
That could have come down several turns ago, and I think we're going to see another big attack.
Oh yeah, you got to. I mean, there is not a massacre on the other side of the board. This could get close to lethal.
So I see what, 7 blockers potentially that you really or 6 blockers. You really don't want to block with the reflection. So 5 against 8 attackers. You could let 3 damage through, but you also don't want to block with the shieldred. That's letting 5 damage through. Yeah, that's starting to get precarious because you're gonna have a lot of creatures die. Then the Voltage Surge and the Oni Cult Anvil could represent more damage with the Meathook Massacre. Okay, the Shielded Crew's there, Bankbuster. That's great. That generates another blocker. That's really we're back up to and Reflection can block 1/1, so that helps soak up some extra damage.
Hmm.
The Harvester can block a 1/1, and we can chump block the Bankbuster with one of these Soken's tokens. So Soken's tokens actually coming up surprisingly big here.
Oh yeah, getting these blocks in, and I mean, it still could be a meat hook turn.
So I will see one, two, 3 creatures dying on Mental Misstep side. That's only 3 more damage, and then 3 coming in from combat. It's gonna put him to 9.
No, the creatures that die on misstep side will gain life for Lavunga. It's the opposite. It's your creatures that die will deal damage.
I never.
It's just the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually that's better for Lavunga because more of his creatures are dying in this combat.
Yes.
Me took Matt. I cannot keep that straight. By the way, just like literally cannot.
Just have trouble with that every time.
Yeah.
I think it's easiest to know because you gain life when you play it, when you wrath your opponent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the way you would want it to be. It would be a significantly worse card if you reverse them.
Yes.
Okay. So after everything is said and done with the misstep triggers and after combat, or the
Meat hook is
meat
lethal if
triggers.
it's there. And that's no, that's a
Oh,
shieldred.
so looks like it's still another harvester in Lavunga's hand.
Is
There,
this gonna be a make disappear with kicker? Oh
no,
no, a cycle?
using their cycle and their blood token before the shield rid. And so we're pretty even life totals. There is a bank buster.
And now it's just annoying triggers. Let's
Yeah,
Ooh,
the answer.
yeah.
Yeah, bank buster gets activated in response so that the shielders cancel out.
Yeah, we might even see that the token, the blood token gets hacked off a treasure.
Brew of Fables, that's probably one we want to keep. Maybe not. Still looking for an answer. I've been assuming there's a voltage surge over there based on these attacks, but maybe it's just
It's just
Lavunga trying to
let's
end the
go.
game. Yeah. We scroll down on Lavunga's graveyard to see exactly what they discarded.
It
Looks like
was
they
a
discarded the
fable.
Fable. Yep. So they drew the Fable off the bank buster, then immediately pitched it. Now it looks like they used.
Yep. Yeah, Lavunga's hand cam is updated.
Yeah. So then they turn that mountain into an Oni Cult Anvil. And the Anvil is good because that means they're going to start generating value. The second Anvil, you know, they both trigger and you get 2/1/1s when an artifact goes to the graveyard.
But we'll see cloning of the harvester twice here to probably take care of that reflection and the harvester on the other side.
Yep. Yeah, these reflections and this shield are really putting in work. And honestly, like if any of them could have been answered with that soul train or with the second Meathook Massacre, I guess it was the first with that Meathook, yeah, with that Meathook Massacre, could have really changed this game. So, if you're sitting in Lavunga's seat, you also got to think like, kind of got a little unlucky here. I'm, 30 something cards
Yeah.
into my deck. and I've seen very little of my removal. Three voltage surges, two infernal grasps, two soul transfers, and three meat hook massacres. And I believe they've only seen
They've seen a soul transfer and a meat hook.
and a grasp that they played
And
on
a
turn two.
yep.
So there's still three voltage surges, one grasp, one soul transfer, and two meat hooks. Seven more pieces of removal here in their deck in a 26 card library. But you know, despite the Shieldred sitting here for what is it, like 6 turns, Lavunga's still at 14 life.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much incidental life gain from a meat hook.
Yeah, from the meat hook and from the Onicult Anvil. So the Shieldred has as powerful as it's been in terms of blunting his ability to end this game, it hasn't really done much for mental misstep in terms of ending the game the other way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like there's more of an engine going on Lavonga's side, but the Shieldred is just keeping the game going.
Yeah, I think it'll if we ever get a turn where we can set up the copy reflection end of turn untap, do 7 or 8 reflections in hand in play. That's something that mental misstep could use to turn it around. But all of these reflections and blood tithe harvesters that Lavunga's deployed over the previous few turns have forced mental misstep to use his reflections with his own blood tithe harvester aggressively on his own turn, clear those away.
Yeah, I mean, there is just a reality that this game is close to over because of all of this, and you see Mental Misstep seeing it. It's like I'm gonna attack because like even with the shoulder in play, I'm getting outpowered.
So now that once gigantic battlefield has been whittled down considerably, only 3 creatures. So there are a couple bank busters that could be crude. It's one of them at least.
All right, we'll see. Yep, Bankbuster get activated down to 12 life.
There's a voltage surge, but not really any good artifacts to sacrifice. I think we'll see that just take one of the reflections away.
Yeah, or just the Harvester,
Yeah, or the harvester. Yep.
just to break that combo up.
Yeah, especially with your own harvester just getting cast this turn. Second anvil. I wonder if we'll see one
Is
anvil
well, let's
gets.
actually look here. If Voltage Surge kills that and they attack, that's 3 damage down to 6, 7,
We
or no,
set up
6,
a lethal
5.
attack
And
here.
I think it's oh wait, no, because the Harvester can crew or
Yeah.
yeah, no,
So
it's lethal.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Voltage Surge kills that if there's no oh no, because Voltage Surge either can crew the Bankbuster.
yeah. So you don't actually clear out a blocker.
Yeah, you gotta hope. I've been in the situation where if it's crew, you die.
But you're pretty happy to.
And yep, that's lethal now. Oh wait, why didn't the Epicure come in?
So we can clear one of these blockers away with a surge. Then they block the bank buster and take 4. But
And then, well,
one of your creatures dying with a block is going to
no, but that's fine because you can crew your
get
Bankbuster and sack that twice.
you to 4, and
Or you can
then
sack the treasure. You just can sack one of your artifacts, which will get you the two artifact creatures
yeah,
to sack.
yeah. I think that could have been lethal there. Said,
No, it's still lethal
well,
because it's 4 damage coming in, and then there's one
oh
trigger from the
yeah, because
block.
there was we could see 2 blocks here. So
Oh
now
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, because the well, I was thinking the voltage surge gets cast.
yeah, that
I
did not
guess you're
get
just
cast.
playing around a removal
Yeah,
spell, and that's what happened.
yeah. I was gonna say there is a couple mana up and a couple cards in hand. So but Lavunga could have pushed for lethal there, but would have potentially exposed himself to that removal spell in a significant way. Instead, forces a pretty favorable trade, I would say. Gets the Blood Tithe Harvester off the battlefield without using the Voltage Surge. Now that's there to handle one of these reflections. You're still getting a bunch of meat hook triggers here. Now, Mental Misstep's life total looking pretty precarious, though these blood tokens with the shield are going to help out there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to run the math. At 9 life, if you attack with the Epicure and that creature dies, you still take deal 3, 4, 5. No, that was still lethal because you deal 1 with the trade of the robots, 1 with the creature getting cast down, and then 3 from the creatures that deal damage, which is 5, and then the last 2 are picked off with the anvil triggers.
Yeah, so the play that Lavunga made ended up leaving Misstep at 6. They've gained 4 life since then. So if you Voltage Surge one of the blockers instead, that it gets 2 more damage in. You can also send in the Epicure. That would have got them to 3, and you have 4 damage with the anvils and the meat hook. Yeah, so I think there was a lethal attack there,
Yeah.
even through the removal spell.
Yep.
That said, I still like Lavunga's position
Oh
here.
wait, no, they could sack a blood token.
Oh yeah, so they that could have gotten
Yeah,
them to negative
that's what it
one.
is.
Yep, the blood token and the shielder would have stopped that. So
Yep.
uh, Lavunga's seeing all of the angles.
Yes, we are not.
Yeah, incredibly complicated. So
Yeah. Even though I am better than Lavunga.
interesting that the Voltage Surge didn't kill either of these reflections. And another Blood Tithe Harvester is definitely a very good draw to get that combo online.
Well, maybe they're just waiting for now. Like once it gets activated, they might hit the voltage surge, or they might hit the harvester. Oh, they're just going for it now. Oh, on the shoulder that got shot. Oh,
Oh yeah, the
shoulders
shielder
off the
came
table.
in. Okay.
So now we might see.
On turn 13, we have found an answer to the Shieldred. Is there a make disappear with
No, we have the hand right now. We have both hands.
okay. Oh, they need to activate. They need to channel Takenuma in response because the Shielder's legendary.
Yes.
So they only have the 3 mana up. They let the Shielder die, then they won't have enough mana for the Takenuma. Which is unfortunate because the Shielder is what they would probably want to get back.
Yes. But they're gonna go for this to try to get some value. Maybe find mill over. Oh, that removal spell.
That's Ty, the
Yeah.
Resurrected. Not particularly good on this battlefield. Not sure what they brought back.
Okay, they targeted Shieldred.
Okay, so they
Okay,
ended up probably milling a Shieldred with it.
I don't remember.
I don't think no Shieldreds died.
I'm hearing from Adrian there was one in graveyard.
Okay, maybe one got discarded to a
I mean,
Fable.
we have a player that's under 10 minutes and this is game 1. So, I'm not gonna even question my memory on what was cast on turn, 11 of this 21 turn game, or
Well,
I guess
we know
13.
there wasn't another Shieldred cast because that Shieldred stayed in play for a very long time. But I imagine one either got milled from the Takenuma
Or
or
a blood.
discarded from a
Yeah,
blood token or a Fable.
it got there somehow.
Yeah. Now without the Shieldred, no more real life gain opportunities for mental misstep. And Lavunga has this Oni Cult Anvil, Mitoke Massacre engine going.
Well, we're gonna see Shieldred come back down. There it is. Potentially sacked to trigger on this blood token, but you can also pick off a few creatures if you want to.
I imagine, at least one blood token will get sacrificed with a Haunted Ridge in hand. Oh, Lavunga finally found another removal spell.
How lucky.
We'll definitely see at least one blood token get sacrificed here.
Yeah.
And I would guess with the Sulphur Springs draw, we'll see a second one. And Haunted Ridge drawn, I think we'll see the third.
There's another argument, and maybe it's a bad one.
Wow, that is a lot of lands in a row.
That is a lot of lands in a row, but there's an argument that's like, oh wait, no, you can't reflect legendary creatures. That's the issue,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
This is one of the interesting aspects of this game. Mental Misstep was stuck on lands early, and then it looked like Lavunga was flooding a bit, and that's one of the ways to get back into it. But both players generating so much card advantage, they didn't really run out of things to do. But that meant Lavunga's deck in this endgame scenario is a lot more juiced than Mental Missteps.
Yes, currently it does seem that way.
And we just saw a glut of lands hit. That is, really, I would say unfortunate, but eventually it's going to happen. The lands are there.
All right, what does this card do? When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life for each time it was kicked. Whenever one.
You get to Dark Confidant when you connect, but
Ow.
only once, regardless of how many creatures connect.
Okay.
So with this wide battlefield, that's another source of card advantage. That is a singleton in Lavunga's deck. That Stronghold Arena, pretty good one. You could kick it for a green or a white and gain 3 life for each time it was kicked.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of fun.
Not sure. I guess we've got the Proving Grounds, the Triomes that add green mana, so
Yeah.
you could potentially kick it.
Yeah. Well, we saw it kicked on this turn.
Yeah, with
Off
a
off
treasure with
off a
treasures.
treasure, yeah.
Yeah, and big attack here. You draw a
Yeah,
Voltage Surge off of the trigger. That's
that's
very good.
big. Down to 7 life too.
Uh,
This game is getting cleaned up.
I imagine that's actually going to hit the Harvester.
I mean,
Doesn't hit anything for now, which is interesting. Maybe waiting for an activation. Yeah, we can. No, doesn't kill in response.
I mean, you're doing the work for them. I guess this does create blood tokens to try to find things.
Yeah, just a couple more lands. They found a Make Disappear. Yeah, another card that doesn't do a lot here. A lot of weak cards in the end game. Um,
You should sack them first, right? I guess they're like, oh, it's meat hook or bust, and you want the creatures in
yeah,
play for
and that's
that.
just another glut of lands. So it looked like I think this might have been 7 lands and a Make Disappear as a pocket in Mental Missteps deck. And
Oh, I know where we're at in the game. Checking chat now about us thinking, oh, that was lethal. It is the actual only one fun thing about having to be on a delay. Now we're on a delay because we don't want the players to get information from stream. We want them to play their game. But it is fun every once in a while when we make an arse out of ourselves when we don't see a line correctly and we hear about it 7 minutes later.
there's the third copy of Voltage Surge. So Lavunga finally finding his removal spells here with 16 cards in library, 20 cards in library for
Clears
Mental
the
Misstep,
path,
and
takes the game, has and both players are under 10 minutes on their clock after game one.
yeah.
I'm guessing our other three matches are completed. No, Simon is down.
The Raging Machismo taking MTG Holic and Mountain Master defeating Simon. So two of our picks for the finals
Yeah, we're both
losing
wrong. Yep.
immediately.
That's how it goes. All right, so here's our Grixis deck. Now I'm gonna just go out there and say yes, missing a land drop or two was not where you wanted to be, but in reality, the game felt like it was playing more in Grixis's favor than Rakdos's, and it still felt like a complete schooling by Rakdos.
Well, I think um, Mental Misstep was never really able to turn the corner.
Yeah, I never really actually. Now that I think about it, never found a corpse appraiser either.
Yeah, we mentioned there at one point that the flooding issue that Lavunga seemed to be having, but despite those extra lands, still had plenty to do with his mana. Was activating you know th- activating the experimental synthesizers for mana, even with Anvil in play. I think
Yep.
that's something a lot of players maybe wouldn't do because they're trained to exercise those synergies. But Leverado noting, I have the extra mana, might as well get the extra token, and those tokens were very relevant. So he really, used the mana advantage and the advantage that he got early in order to leverage all of his cards as much as possible. And I think, kept presenting those threats of his own blood type harvesters to not allow Mental Misstep any time to set up the combo with double reflection. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a game with two reflections of the battlefield for that long without seeing someone have the opportunity to go for that big turn
I agree with you completely.
ever in any format. So I think that was a very well navigated game from Lavunga. Pressed his advantage as much as he could. Also made sure that he wasn't going to, lose a ton. Was going to maximize the value from all of his cards. Got a little bit punished for it early with that soul transfer play, but in general, that's what he wants to be doing, and it paid off over the course of the game.
That's great. So now we are in game two. Mental Misstep is deciding, hopefully gets to keep a six, doesn't miss a third land drop, and gets to play a good game. But pressure's on. They're down by a little under 2 minutes on the clock. Need to actually win two games in that time.
Yeah, and they were really on like 8.5, so they took a good amount of time here to make those mulligan decisions. This is a second mulligan for them. They did mulligan on the play in game
Hmm.
one as well, so that 30 seconds could be really relevant because making up a minute or so in this time, I think quite doable. Making up 2 minutes a lot harder.
It is definitely difficult, especially because you're the one that's pressured to win the games. You have to make the toughest decisions.
Yep, and you got to win two of them.
Yeah.
If mental misstep was up the game and just had to win this one, you could sort of treat it like a game three, take a little bit of more time.
All right. We see an unlicensed hearse.
But while a good card here that is going to allow this harvester to get in and let mental misstep get kind of aggressive, which is what he wants to do in this game. We're sort of because of clocks now. We're out of the super grind mode.
And we're just seeing the corpse price are coming down because it's like that hearse is always gonna block my ability to draw a card anyway. I'm
Yeah.
just getting it down. We're gonna go beat down.
Very smart play for mental misstep. I think that in this situation, that's exactly what he needs to be doing.
All right. Second land comes down just with an epicure. So no big play. Feels like one of those games where it's like, I need my massacre to hit, and I need you to not have a counter spell.
Yeah, definitely. Another a big attack here. Is this a Shieldred? Okay, is there a removal spell? Could be an Infernal Grasp. There
Yeah,
is.
there it is.
That's important, but that is another 2 life. So Vunga now down to 9, which is just 3 connections from these 2 creatures. So that's a 2-turn clock even through the epic here chumping. And I also see a Meat Hook Massacre on Mental Misstep side of the battlefield. We might see that cast for 2 mana just to start generating a few extra points of damage.
Very well could. All right, we're gonna see 2 mana cast, and all right, an anvil. We're gonna see, yeah, the blood token sack to loot.
That'll generate another blocker. That'll probably be
No
a
fourth
block
land.
sack to the anvil, gain a life. Oh yeah, a meat hook for 1 here is excellent. Do we? Well, we can crew hearse in response, but then we'd have
Then
to
we have
activate
to
it to
activate
make
it.
it
Yeah.
live the meat hook. So it doesn't really do a whole lot there. Definitely want to sack the token in response before the meat hook even enters the battlefield. We gain 1 life off the anvil. Take 6 from this attack. That's gonna put Lavunga to or take 4 because the
Yeah.
meat hook shrunk them. So that now that is lethal damage being represented here, albeit with 5 cards in hand and if counterplay potentially available for Lavunga.
Shieldred, though, the shields are down. All right, there we go. And we got both hand cams, and we can tell that Mental Misstep does not have an answer.
And that is huge. Shieldred gonna be doing a great job at stabilizing. Interestingly, here, Mental Misstep, they're gonna keep both lands in their hand. Yeah, I guess for the Fable.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, draws a third anvil. It depends on what you do with your mana this turn. Yeah, I definitely like getting Fable down, getting another creature down that can animate or crew, excuse me, the unlicensed curse. And yeah,
Yeah, the board is pretty stable here at this point. Mental Misstep is going to draw a bunch of extra cards, but they're going to take a bunch of damage to do it. That's actually going to even the life totals up at 8 apiece, should they choose to discard 2 cards to the Fable, which
well,
they
and
do.
I believe they have to. Yeah.
Yep. And they find a land and a Bank Buster.
Oh, that's
Not,
great. More digging.
yeah, not great draws here. Bank Buster is not even big enough to attack into the Shieldred. Yeah. No, as good as the Shieldred for Mental Misstep was in game 1, stalling that game out, this Shieldred looks even better.
Oh, this one looks devastating because now that's going to be another 2 to 6 life. Yeah, I assume we're going to see 2 cards discarded here. The value is just too high.
Now the question is to switch 2. These are all solid cards. Decides to keep 1 Anvil and discard the Abrade.
Kept both
Oh, kept
anvils.
both Anvil, just discarded the Abrade. It's only
Yeah,
1 card discard. Okay, so really, apparently wanting to go wide here, and that makes sense with an opponent on 8.
yeah. All right, going to get in now. Does this mean that once that? Hmm.
And we can't really grasp the Corpse Appraiser in response because something can crew the Bank Buster. I guess just really wanted to get this treasure so that we can
Yeah.
start the engine with the anvils.
Oh yes, of course.
Okay, so just willing to throw away the goblin to get this engine started.
Yes. Now you get both of those down.
Okay, I'm I'm in for that.
All right. Actually, is it game over if they?
Um, yeah, this isn't going to end the game because there's no meat hook
Oh
on
no, it's the meat hook
Lavunga's.
on the other side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Another bank
Yeah,
buster
I know.
drawn.
All right.
And a Fable. Drawing all the card draw in the face of this Shieldred. Mental misstep now in a very tight spot. Not too many cards left to be drawn.
But thanks to that meat hook not going to lose to these anvils.
Well, 5 life, if we can, if Lavunga is able to generate some non-creature artifacts, I guess like can we just sack the anvils to themselves, generate 3 damage that way?
Yes.
Yeah, get our opponent to 2 and just say, "Oh, you don't have an answer to this Shieldred,"
Yeah, in response to 4
and then
now.
that's a fourth anvil. So now we can even start going for it and respond to a card draw. So I think we are going to see this game and match end.
And yeah, now you have 4.
And
All right, well, there's not enough blood in play to kill the Shieldred here.
yeah, like we could have tried to copy Corpse Appraiser, but the unlicensed hearse has that covered. Exile the epic here that is in Lavunga's graveyard.
All right, sacking this.
Uh,
Targeting what? Can you hover over the harvester trigger?
Targeting the
Okay.
reflection. So trying to gain a life in response. But even that isn't going to be relevant.
No, that deals a damage. Oh yeah, you
Well,
gain
yeah,
a
once
life
the
from the
reflection
opponents. Yeah,
dies.
yeah. Yeah, here we go.
Even if Lavunga let that happen, that doesn't change these anvils from being lethal.
Yeah, that's it.
Now the power of Shieldred in both games, but
Yeah.
game one, mental misstep, never able to turn the corner with it. So both games then going to our Rakdos sacrifice player.
Yeah, I mean, like Lavunga played that really well, and that just felt like, is that just what's going to happen for these other matches?
Yeah,
Because that's exactly how it feels like these games are going to play out.
because we've got Mountain Master as his top opponent. That's another Grixis player, and Raging Machismo, our lone undefeated
Mhm.
Swiss. A quick 2-0 over MTG Holic on Jund. So it's 2 Grixis and Rakdos in the top 4. A lot of Grixis. Lavunga could potentially just take 3 Grixis matchups to win
Yep.
this tournament. Still waiting on the result of Hake and Gold Ducat. That is Gold Ducat is our 4th Grixis player, and then Hake is playing the very interesting Esper list with the Legend sub theme that I think is really good.
Yeah, no, I really like that too. Now they're about to wrap up. We're going to go to a break to get reset for top 4.
Okay.
And then when we get to top 4, we're going to go take a look at that other side of the bracket.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I'm really excited to see what's happening on the other side of the bracket. So it'll be Grixis, but will it be Grixis versus Grixis or Grixis versus Esper? We'll find out in a few minutes. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you for the semifinals of the MetaTrader Series Standard in a couple minutes. All right, hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Brad. This is Ross Merriam. We're here for the MetaTrader Series, and we thought we were going to the semifinals, and we thought we had a winner. The games were inching really close, but now they're razor thin. So we're going to just jump right into the action for the final seconds of the standard. Or sorry, the
Quarterfinals.
quarterfinals.
We've got Hake on the bottom of your screen, Gold Ducat on the top, playing Grixis. You can see both players with about a minute left on their clocks, just seconds separating them. And Gold Ducat was at one point down to 4. Just gain a little bit of life with Meathook Massacre and Wandering Emperor to stave off defeat. And we'll see if one player can close it out or if it'll come down to the clocks.
All right, we see a kicked make disappear on the spectral adversary. And this paying for it does mean that things aren't going to get phased out.
Yeah, but it's also a lot of clicking to tap your lands and pay for this, and then to
Yeah.
click all the. So we're now got about a 20-second disparity just to resolve the spectral adversary.
All right, we're seeing one activation for it, phasing out that token. Now this is in their main phase, so they are tapped out.
Got to make faster decisions.
Yeah, now you're down to 15 seconds. 12.
Yeah, this Rafine triggering, just a few too many game actions needed for Hake here.
Oh, it's so sad we're coming back in and saw that this one turn ate up the entire last minute of their clock. Yeah, even F6 just yeah, you're down. You yeah, just that's gonna do it. Yeah, Goldicott is gonna take the match.
Oh wow.
All right, that was an upset. Yeah, we thought Esper was going to win that, and it seemed like it was so close to the end of the game that we took our break and let the players reset, and then slowly Goldicott was inching back into it, slowly
Yeah.
getting back in there. So we're like, we got to just go live. Let's get back into it right away. And
Yeah. Able to get back into the game, and then honestly, it looked like they had a good chance of winning that game, even regardless of the clock.
yep.
That they really came back from a. We'd been watching a few minutes before that, but came back from a pretty precarious spot.
Hmm.
So impressive stuff from Goldicott there, and that means that the match that we watched where Lavunga pretty handily took down Grixis was the only match that Grixis lost. It is Lavunga and Grixis.
And if you're in Lavunga's seat, I think that you're happy about that. You don't have to deal with like Esper's evasiony draws that can actually like have a bunch of counter disruption and get some life gain and fly over you. So I think that this is what Lavunga wants for this top eight, but we're going to pivot for the semifinals and watch a Grixis versus Grixis matchup. If we can throw up that slide of
Yeah.
standings of the top eight bracket.
Now, the important thing to note here in the top of our bracket, we do have Goldicott, who you just saw win. We'll pencil him in real quick. But Ranging Machismo, this is our number one overall seed. He was undefeated in the Swiss, 7-0. And when 2-0 pretty quickly go over MTG Holic there in the quarterfinals. That was a Grixis on Jund matchups. 8-0 on the day, looking to make it a clean sweep. And obviously, like any player who plays Magic tournaments, you want to win.
Of course.
Taking first, there's just something different about taking first. But there's a pretty big difference in this tournament between losing in the semifinals and getting to that final match, and that is qualification for the end of the year December invitational event.
That's exactly right. These two matches, two players, the winners of them, will be going to the December Invitational. That is a $30,000 prize tournament with 48 players. 4 players from each month have been qualifying. There will be some at large spots. So all these players, even the ones that lost in the quarterfinals, are in the background playing out their losers bracket for point totals.
Yep.
And so there is a double elimination bracket, but what's covered is just the upper bracket, the winners bracket. And so we will be watching these matches. Now, I do just have to ask Adrian, does Galdicott or Raging Machismo have hand cams? All right, we will be continuing our journey with Lavunga
Okay.
so that we can have some hand cams. I do like for storylines, knowing what the players have in their hands is huge. So we're gonna keep following Rakdos. And you know what? To be fair, watching a Grixis mirror isn't the most interesting.
I think the play has been quite good, but I
Yep.
am definitely rooting for Rakdos sacrifice guys. So uh, I'm I'm happy to keep watching Lavunga against the world. By the world, I mean Grixis.
Yeah, I mean, there's just been like Luis Salvato and Lavunga. They've both been playing Rakdos Sacrifice in uh challenges on MTGO for a very long time, for even pre this season. This is just an archetype that they've known for a while. And to see that it still has legs even post rotation is really cool to me. Like Deadly Disputes got rotated,
Yeah,
one of
one of
the
the key
best.
cards. Yeah,
Yeah, and that it still is functioning and being a role player, and because, like, you have this kind of sacrifice engine, but you're also having to play all the, like, the big clunky stuff that all the other decks are playing, like the Shieldreds and of that nature. So the deck is not really as synergized as most sacrifice decks
yeah.
normally typically would be.
And I think if it was more synergy driven, it would make it worse because these decks are filled with a very large amount of removal. You're able to break up those synergies. So the only thing that you're really playing is the Onicol anvils and the experimental synthesizers. Synthesizer plays well with your mid-range game plan anyway.
Yeah,
And Onicol anvil, a very difficult card to answer. There's not many ways to remove artifacts, at least in people's main decks, especially in Grixis, it's really just some abrades in the sideboard.
yeah.
So just adding those cards, that makes you better in these matchups because it gives you a little bit of an engine to
Mhm.
work towards in the mid late game. And we saw the Onicol anvils come up big in both games in the quarterfinals, but you're not pushing too hard that it makes you super vulnerable I guess Voldaren Epicure, maybe that's like the one concession you're making, playing a pretty low impact card.
Yeah, it is pretty weak, but when you start adding these shoulders stuff, that does open you up to your opponent's good removal spells having good targets. But to be fair, you're already playing these blood type harvesters and your fables, so you have good targets for removal anyway. It's not like you're denying your opponent from good
So
uses of them.
now let's can we bring up Mountain Masters deck list on the stream here? This is going to be Lavunga's opponent in the top four. Just want to look at some differences between this Grixis list and what we saw in the top eight. And the main one I'm seeing is those Ether Channelers. Ether Channeler card we've seen in a few lists, not a ton, so relatively unique. Everything else mostly the same. Brad, how do you think Ether Channeler is going to perform against Acto Sacrifice?
I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact as the rest of the core of the strategy. What I am looking at is those 2 Sorens and 3 Abrades, just a higher density of those high impact cards for a matchup like this. Just more things that you can get on the board to generate value, as well as disrupt your opponent's key engines of value.
I am 100% agree. I think Channeler is actually a card that's going to come out, but Sorin in particular can be very good because Active Stack doesn't attack Planeswalkers very well.
All right. Well, actually, the players have seeded, so let's get down to the action and see if Lavunga can keep the streak up of just taking all the Grixis down.
Looks like Lavungo won the die roll this time. Gets
Yeah.
to be on the play. Neither player taking a mulligan. And no action on the first 2 turns.
Well, yeah, and it's a tough turn for Lavunga to want to deploy something into a make disappear.
Yeah. So we could see Lavunga holding up a piece of interaction here, but Fable can interact with directly, maybe just a removal spell for this Goblin Shaman token.
That's what we'll see. A voltage surge, untap, probably now deploy your Fable or something.
Yeah. I think very smart play here from Lavunga, not getting impatient, not running into the make disappear.
Oh, just hitting a Fable off of it. Oh, for
Parasite
sure
Form.
has the 4th land. That is good.
That's really good.
Yeah, a free Fable that's already so much value on its own.
Now you've got a synthesizer on board for when you play an anvil later on.
Yeah, that is a good mid-rangey turn. Right, so Fable Chapter 2 going off. Mountain Master is deciding, if any, what cards they're going to be discarding. All right, we see a Corpse Appraiser and a Springs. That could signal that they have another Corpse Appraiser in hand, or just that's not part of the utility for the turn. All right, yeah, there it is. Corpse Appraiser is going to appraise itself. That sounds like some ego stuff I would do. That sounds like psyching yourself up in the mirror kind of stuff.
You are worth it. You are going to because you are good at magic.
All right, here we go. We're gonna see cards, what they're gonna want, and then fill that graveyard up just a bit too. In all honesty, this seems like a great start for Mountain Master. Get a little value going. Has the first table in play. Lavunga's not really set up too well so far.
Yeah, I think good starts for both players here. They're both on extra cards, amassing resources. Nobody's missed a land drop yet. Um, we haven't really seen any big exchanges, so no real opportunities to come out ahead for either player. But I imagine we're going to start seeing some fireworks soon. Ooh, is that a Fable and a Shielder discarded for?
Well, it's not discarded, it's off the corpse. So that's saying that the
Okay.
other card was better.
Huh.
Let's pull the deck list up and try to guess. I mean, it could be a variety of things.
Could be Native
It could be
Master.
another one of them.
Yeah, it could be another Fable, it could be a Meat Hook, maybe a
I mean,
Bankbuster.
it could be a Sheldred. Like,
Is it
it's just another gasser. It could be a fifth land when their hand's already
yeah, it could be
gas.
a land. Yeah, there's a lot of things it could be, and this is something to keep in mind for the coming turns. Is what they do will probably clue us in into which scenario it was. If we see a Bankbuster next turn, we're very much expecting a Make Disappear, for example. Um, well, here's an Onicult Anvil for Lavunga, and that's going to get the engine rolling a little bit. See if they want to sacrifice the synthesizer. Worst case scenario, you hit a Shieldred, you can throw away the Goblin Shaman, backing it into the. Ooh,
Ooh, Voltage Surge is
take that
nice.
back. Yeah, that's awkward. Potentially wanted to attack first before kind of showing Mountain Master's plan, though I
Yeah,
suspect the Goblin Shaman was going to eat that Voltage Surge regardless.
I would assume so, yeah. So here
Okay,
we have another Fable.
that's a very strong follow up. So wonder if we're going to see a double reflection turn in Lavunga down the road, or maybe from
Just
Mountain
more
Master.
this Meat Hook Massacre is gonna be very goblin-y,
So now I'm kind of based on that play, I'm suspecting that Fable is the card that Mountain Master took off of the Corpse Appraiser.
possibly. Or it's that they already had them, so they didn't want another one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to say. It's just when you see that happen, it's hard to figure out what card it is, but it's not good news.
Yeah.
It's just not good for you to know that your opponent just put those in the bin and
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. 'Cause not only does it mean that the card they put in their hand is good, it means the rest of their hand is probably good too.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
I guess the best case scenario for you is their hand is all lands and they hit 3 gassers off of it.
Yep.
That is
But well,
unlikely.
no, it's unlikely because they would have taken the Fable if that was the case.
Well, it could have been
It could have been
2
2 Fable,
Fable
yeah.
shielded hand is all
But
lands.
what I'm saying is they're going to fix that bad
Yeah, true.
hand.
That's even the best case scenario. So now with all the mana untapped, we see the synthesizer get sacrificed. So any card Livinga hits going to be able to cast or a land get played. It's a harvester. And see if there's any follow up here. Both players getting a little bit low on resources at this point. We haven't seen, we've seen cards that make some permanents with the fables and the corpse appraisers. Not a ton in terms of card advantage. Just one appraiser, one synthesizer. It'll be interesting to see if we get a bank buster anytime soon out of either player. That could be a big way to start breaking parity. We do, however, see an Obnixilis, the adversary. This is a singleton in Lavunga's deck list. I do casualty it, so we're going to see potentially 2 Obnixes, maybe one of them eating a Make
Or
Disappear.
both eating and make disappear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's not really often used that way, but can be.
I'd never seen it used that way. I just think of it as like
Yeah.
counter unless you pay 2, counter unless you pay 4.
No,
But
it's the
yeah,
answer to the other casualty cards.
yeah. No Make Disappear, which I think would have been a really strong reply here from Mountain Master. So I suspect none exists. We've got one on 3 loyalty, one on 2. So the Obnix on 3 goes down to 1 to make a devil token. The Obnix on 2 pluses. Uh,
I also used to make that play the first day I tried this card on the pre-release day when I realized it wasn't good enough. I mean, I do like it having a one of as a cool effect to have in a deck that digs a lot.
yeah.
I'm more talking there were so many of the 4 of Chariot in that decks.
So the first reflection from Lavunga getting Infernal Grasp on the end step there. So there'll be no potential double reflection anytime soon for him. But
I mean, we're online. Like Mountain Master is online with Appraiser and Reflection.
yeah, yeah, interesting to see no removal there. That definitely suggests no removal, in Lavunga's hand.
And we know that. We
Yeah,
actually have the hand cam working now.
Mountain Master certainly knows it too, even without a hand.
Yes. There is not much more I can think of that's beautiful value than just being able to to Reflection of Kiki, a card that draws you a card.
Have you ever evoked a Muldrifter and ephemerated it with the evoke trigger?
I mean, I might not have done that, but I for sure did it with a Momentary Blank way back in the day.
Yeah,
I'm showing my age
it's
with my
even better
Revel
with
Art decks.
ephemerate
Well,
because then you know you're getting it again the next
oh wait,
upkeep.
no, were they both legal in MH2? Yes. Then yes, I did it many times. I
Yeah.
drafted a lot.
Okay. An attack coming in.
Yeah, gonna get those 2 blocks.
Yeah, just protecting the Obnixili.
Yeah, falling further and further behind here.
Yeah, didn't really have the removal to break up what Mountain Master was doing here. This is not something we really saw Mental Misstep able to set up in the quarterfinals. Really didn't draw a lot of Corpse Appraisers.
Mm. And now, even if a Massacre was drawn off the top, I do just feel like there's a Make Disappear ready in the wings.
Yeah, do we have enough to,
Yeah, there's a treasure in a land.
does Lavunga have enough to believe? I guess you wouldn't, you definitely can't pay four, so you would just get one creature basically out of it. And also a Bankbuster coming down for Mountain Master. That is an excellent card here just to keep reloading.
But is able to break up the combo with that Harvester living and finds another Harvester in the wings. This game is coming back. Yeah, we just got a long slog here. Players have engines revving, things happening, and now with the game kind of stable, these Nixilis are going to bleed quickly.
Yeah, and Mountain Master down to 11 from the first activation. See if they'll go down to nine. Yeah, 9 from the second. They can't do that too many more times. So we might see Obnixilis come up pretty big here for Lavunga.
I guess the decision is, do you want to play that other Oni call and get some tokens? And I think you do. I would. I would get 2 more blockers,
Yeah,
stack a blood token.
I like that. Yeah, I want to.
Well,
Okay,
oh yeah,
that eats
trying
a
to play
Make
around the Make
Disappear.
Disappear. I was like, I feel like there's a Make Disappear on the other side.
Ooh. The hand cam coming up for Mountain Master. We see Meat Hook Massacre is their last card. That could be quite good cast on one to clear away a bunch of 1/1 blockers.
There is only one blocker at the moment.
Yeah, so not great turn. Hmm. Important for Lavunga that their reflection is online first, so that might force Mountain Master to use their Blood Tithe Harvester now, even if they have to get rid of it.
Yep.
They can just trade Blood Tithe Harvesters, then you know, Lavunga doesn't really have any way to leverage their reflection, but Mountain Master will have reflection plus Corpse Appraiser.
Sticky turn. I mean, yeah, it's
Now, here's another line available to Mountain Master. They could use their Harvester to crew the Bankbuster, then Meat Hook for 2,
I like the line.
clearing the battlefield except for the Appraiser and the Bankbuster. That'll leave them with 3 power attacking. They could take out the biggest Obnix.
Yeah, they don't like your line.
They don't like it. They
No.
want to draw cards. I,
I mean, that would allow them to take out both Obnixilis.
no, because
Oh, the
theirs
corpse.
would
Yeah,
shrink.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. The
they'd have
corpse.
a 2/2 and a 1/1.
Yeah.
So it would have left Lavunga with an Obnix with two loyalty. We just see, yeah, we.
We saw Harvester take out a reflection.
Oh, interesting. That to me suggests another removal spell, right? Because now Lavunga can just harvester down the reflection, and now neither player gets anything going. But
Wow.
maybe Mountain Master is fine with that trade when they have two Bank Busters drawing a bunch of cards.
And we still have to worry about all this incidental damage.
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, you have a bunch of card advantage, but the Obnixes are going to start, rendering that moot because you're going to have to start discarding actual cards to those plus
Mhm.
ones.
All right, now are we going to see an anvil? I even think before sacrificing that harvester, I thought we were going to see the pop of the anvil. Sorry, excuse me, the pop of the synthesizer with the
Yeah.
anvil.
Another 2 damage from Obnix, another plus. Mountain Master want to go to 4.
That is a scary life total.
Yeah. Does not. Just
This Rakdos deck is so good against Grixis.
discards a Make Disappear. So still has that Meat Hook Massacre in hand.
Yeah, sacrifice synthesizer to create a 2/2.
So this is a little risky. If Lavunga had uh, exiled a. Oh, I guess no, they had 3 mana. Okay. They have a land drop. They had made their land drop.
They wouldn't have been able to cast a shelter it off
Yeah,
of it.
that's what I was thinking. A little risky, but I think a risk worth it to just get another 2/2 in play when your opponent is so low on life.
Yes.
And Lavunga continuing to show a prioritization of milking every ounce of value from his cards. I don't think we've seen him sacrifice a synthesizer to an anvil. I think he has sacrificed all of them to their own abilities.
I think maybe one, maybe not. Yeah, it is one line that I just did not expect. These 2/2s also have been very relevant.
Yeah, been very important, and clearly Leverado knew that.
Play this deck a lot.
So card off
Mm,
Bank Buster and a card for turn gets Mount Master 2 unknowns to go along with that Meat Hook, and I think we're seeing the Meat Hook cast here. That's pretty good
it is a very powerful magic card.
because it's going to give you a little cushion against these Obnixiluses. Going to let you attack. Okay, we're crewing first. That makes sense because we definitely don't have enough mana to activate both Bank Busters after the Meat Hook. So might as well get in for 2 afterwards instead of 1 with the Appraiser.
Here we go. Meat hook for 2. That's going to
One of these 1/1s will get sacked. We'll get a drain for 1, and then uh,
3
Master
life.
going to gain 3. So go up to 8.
And then Buster Brown's going to take 2 loyalty off of one of these Obnixilis, I assume.
Yeah, I wonder which one. That like it's a you either leave them with a 3 and a 2 or a 4 and a 1. I don't.
I don't. I think
Yeah,
taking the higher one down a little bit sounds good. All right, so 2 Bank Busters in hand for Lavunga, which is not really where you want to be. Oh yeah, I mean, with do you just sack the blood token to discard one to see if you find something of better value?
I think we want to sack that blood token to Anvil to get that going. We see a
Well, you
devil
can
makes
sack
it.
it just to get the 1/1, just by sacking
Oh,
it.
yeah. Really just a question of the drain,
Yeah,
which is also relevant here.
but the drain can just chump block and then drain. It just comes down to with only 6 mana, you might want to just get both Bank Busters down. All right,
Which
drawing
is
a card scene. Yeah, found a land. Yeah, just cast it.
okay, so now we have to sack the blood to the Oni Cult Anvil. And I mean, we do still have both Obnixes out and multiple blockers. So if Mountain Master finds another creature to crew a Bank Buster, we can block both attackers.
Mm-hmm.
And clear. And yeah, we're guaranteed to find one because you can activate one, get a pilot, crew the other.
Yep.
Yeah, still 3 cards in hand. That they added card advantage for Mountain Master here, proving very relevant. Um, But this is going to be one of
Some
those
meat.
games that
Oh,
Rakdos
oh,
sneaks
there's the
over the finish line.
channeler,
That's big.
the Mano
Yeah, we
channeler.
get to bounce the devil. That doesn't even trigger because it doesn't die. This is going to take out the big Obnix, the one that's on 3, if Mountain Master wants to. So yeah, big turn. Ether, you know, I think we'll both still stand by Ether Channeler not being a very high impact card in the matchup, but in that specific spot,
Found the value.
and a Blood Tithe Harvester, another follow up. So
This feels like all right.
feels like we need a meat hook for Lavunga.
All right,
And even then
synthesizer.
you're staring down. Well, then it's 2 bank busters a piece, and you've got more counters left. So yeah, I think a meat hook will definitely get him back into it, but he doesn't have many. Well, actually, he does have some turns to find it because he is at 27.
Oh, that is the opposite of a card that you want in this situation.
Yeah, we can gain 3 life with it because we've got a Proving Ground in play, but it is not going to do a whole lot. And if we choose to kick it to gain the 3 life, then you can't activate both bank busters. So yeah, pretty weak situation to draw that singleton. Stronghold Arena.
All right, we're gonna see another synthesizer sacked.
Do we have enough to protect this Obnix? Right now, no, because the pilot can crew. Oh, okay, yes, yeah, because we got 2/1/1s.
Another
But
Oni cult, not the worst.
with the first Oni Colt is already triggered for the turn, but we can
Yes.
sacrifice a token, essentially get a free drain. Oh, not
Well,
really a
half
drain.
a drain.
Yeah, we just get a life off it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Lunga realizing the Stronghold Arena not really relevant, choosing to spend his mana on other things. Top Coast gets looted away with the blood. We'll see if Mountain Master can find something else to push through this wall of blockers to deal with the last Obnixilis. So with these 2 Bankbusters in play, we've been looking for ways for Lavunga to, push through these last bits of damage, but he's also gained us a considerable life cushion on his own life total, sitting at 27. That's going to buy him time to start activating these own Bankbusters.
Yeah.
And
And then finding that massacre.
yeah, so this game far from over.
I think we are about to enter our second match in a row where a player has less than 10 minutes after game one.
Yeah, and in the quarterfinals, Lavunga was very close on time with Mental Misstep. Is a pretty considerable edge on Mountain Master
Yes.
here. Almost 5 minutes right now on the clock. So I think Lavunga pretty happy to play this game for another 10, 20 minutes.
All right. Both Bankbusters are coming in.
We see a triple block and an attempt at a trade.
I assume it's just 2 double blocks. Oh, it is. There's going to be a trade.
Okay, so we trade ones both on 2 counters. Pretty even. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
It seemed
that's
like that was coming.
yeah, we have that on the hand cam. So the voltage surge there, huge. Losing the bank buster with 2 counters on it.
Gonna have to crew the one with 3.
Yep. Honestly, like, is the Obnix even more important than that? I'm not sold it is, but I guess Lavunga thinks otherwise.
I mean, you are stopping their card draw as well, but you are
Yeah,
losing your own.
you're losing a card to keep this Obnix in play essentially because your bank buster has 3, theirs has 2. Maybe keeping some pressure off of you as well. I don't think you have enough resources to get over the finish line with this Obnix and Mountain
Mm-mm.
Master at 8. Meatook Massacre really doing a good job here at keeping their life total high enough. That's a great draw. Another
Yeah.
synthesizer for Lavunga off the top.
Can it find a meat hook?
Mountain. So I have to assume we'll see this get sacrificed.
Yeah. That would only leave a meat hook for 2, though, which is not good enough.
I mean, still pretty good. I guess with 2 appraisers, maybe not so good. Oh, and it does come off there.
Oh,
The
so awkward.
yeah.
And that would make them Lavunga lose all 5 creatures, which I just don't think is something they can afford.
It also means losing. So what we could do is make a devil, and that will help you finish off at least one appraiser.
Yeah, but I mean, it does just let you cast it and get into play. So now,
Yeah.
now the damage actually is relevant. All these little chip shots are going to work. That's actually good enough
Yeah,
usually.
yeah, still quite relevant, I think. So I think playing the meat hook the way he should have there. Now we've got 5 creatures on each side.
I mean, the reality is this: if the if Mountain discards a card, or at least goes down to 0 cards, uh, the game is over.
Yeah,
So,
especially because Lavunga can wait till the upkeep to sacrifice with the anvils, and so only his meat hook triggers will trigger first.
but that won't matter if both.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh no, the game is over then completely to do it that way.
Yep.
Because 2 will get sacked here, which will result in the drains canceling each other out from the hooks, but the anvil triggers happening.
Well, anvil only triggers on Lavunga's turn
The life
of
the
the life.
tokens, but the tokens only triggers on their turn. The life
Yeah.
doesn't. That's on the activated. The tokens is the triggered.
We're gonna see a ton of meat hook triggers get on the battlefield here. They're all gonna cancel out. So life totals are gonna remain
Wait, is
27
that
to
actually
6.
enough?
But in this case, Lavungas are
How
gonna
many
resolve
creatures died? That was
first.
4. So that is lethal.
Yeah, so too big of an attack here from Mountain Master, allowing a Lavunga to leverage the active player, non-active player order of the stack. So he's gonna
Are
let
they
his triggers resolve, then respond to Mountain Master's triggers and use these anvils, I think, to finish off this game. A game where
This
it
is where
felt
Lavunga's making sure there's not a single card that interacts
yeah.
now. Yep, happening right now. The old blood artist tricks. Yeah, there it is. Lavunga wins game 1. You know what?
Really.
I would have played it out for another minute. Get that clock to go a little lower.
Yeah, because now you get 1041 is plenty of time to win 2 games.
I don't think it is.
Okay, maybe not in this matchup, but in general.
We haven't. I don't think we've seen a single game go go shorter than that.
I think we saw, Bunga in that quarterfinal matchup, had a pretty significant advantage from the early stumble from mental misstep. And then game two, because game one took so long, misstep was kind of cornered into playing a different game than what he otherwise would have liked. There, I think we saw Grixis operating to its full capacity, drawing
Yep.
cards of Corpse Appraiser, using the reflection to good effect, having Bank Busters out, timing removal spells well, and Lumunga still found a way to just grind through it all. The one Obnixilis coming up huge. A ton of damage dealt with that
That was the
Obnixilis.
most impressive Obnexos I've ever seen, and I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, really, we saw him really prioritize it. Threw away a lot of resources, chump blocking to keep them on the battlefield, and really paid off for that. So a very clear understanding of the matchup from Lavunga, and it is paying off big time.
Now, what do you think about Cyberdyne though? What do we think Mountain's going to be able to do here? We talked about the Abrades, the Sorens. What do you think about the other disruptive spells? Like the Bankbuster probably comes in. What would you do at these negates and duresses?
So one thing
Excuse me, there aren't any duresses.
yeah, there aren't duresses. I do kind of like the cut down. There aren't a ton of creatures, but I think being able to deal with some of the early creatures cheaply can really help you out of the Grixis seat. Um, the you definitely don't want Disdainful Stroke. There's just not too many big
Mm-mm.
cards, but the negates are interesting to
All
me.
right. Well, they have decided on their sideboard. We'll see what they do.
I like the negates because I don't think your make disappears are targeting the creatures other than Shieldred.
I agree with that too.
And negate being alive all throughout the game, being able to counter like a synthesizer could be really huge in the mid game.
A
Or
big or small meat hook that's going to change and swing the game.
yeah, so I like the negates. I think they will come in.
All right. So we have Mountain Master keeping their 7. Lavunga is deciding on theirs. And down to 6 cards for Lavunga.
Notably, Lavunga does have a second Obnixilis in the sideboard, so I assume we'll see that come in, given how he
At least on
prioritized
the
it
play.
in game one.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that always feels a little worse on the draw. All right. Again, making sure that nothing gets appraised this game. We see an unlicensed hearse.
I mean, Corpse Appraiser seems like it's been such a big part of these Grixis decks all throughout the Swiss, and then I mentioned earlier the Mental Misstep didn't really seem to draw a lot of them in the quarterfinal matchup,
Hmm.
so makes sense for Lavunga to prioritize it, answering it, especially with a card like Hearse that can just be a threat by itself. One of the real benefits, it's not a card like Tormod's Crypt that costs you a card to deal with the graveyard.
All right. So we see Fable of the Mirror Breaker for Lavunga on turn 3 after the Unlicensed Hertz gets makes disappeared. Big turn for Mountain Master. What are we seeing? A Shieldred? Is
Yeah.
it a Shieldred or a Shield Dead?
That was no 3 drop from Mountain Master. I guess they
It was
probably,
Tapland.
yeah, could have had a Corpse Appraiser
Oh, we
that
did,
didn't do anything.
and we did not see an instant speed removal spell.
There are a couple soul transfers in Lavunga's sideboard. He actually has 4 in the 75. 2 main,
Yeah.
2 boards. So see one of those take that Shieldred down.
Interesting. We're seeing the attack first.
And Mountain Master not taking the what looks like an obvious block because it does run the Shieldred into a Voltage Surge
Yeah.
as you gain the treasure from the attack. So I
But
think,
now we have the Soul Transfer that's on because of it.
oh,
And to get back the Shieldred that was discarded to the Fable.
oh,
It
wow.
was a lot of value.
A really heady play from Lavunga too. Knows his opponent is good enough to sniff out the voltage surge, but might not have even been there in order to sneak out the value from the soul transfer. And now, granted, if the goblin gets eaten, the soul transfer still works to its
All right,
fullest.
Adrian, we need that hand cam. We need to know if that voltage surge is actually there. All right, Soren coming down, doing its best Dark Confidant impression. Finds a swamp.
And the Sorin, a very good response here for Mountain Master because they're almost assuredly going to be able to untap with it. Maybe you see another soul transfer here.
I mean, you don't want Soren to stick around.
Oh, yeah, this is a big turn, I think, for Lavunga. If they don't have the direct answer, how do we best set up to try to get this Sorin off the battlefield quickly? Maybe you see if the voltage surge
Is
was
that yeah,
there.
we
Well,
we might see it here now.
yeah, the jig will be up. Just a Shieldred. Okay, it does look like there might have been an
Oh,
Abrade
perfect.
there.
We do.
So a Braid would have also finished off.
Well, the bloodthirsty adversary could as well.
So we didn't have land 5 to kick it for the soul transfer.
No, but it's after combat,
Hmm.
right? Because there's a
Uh,
treasure in play. Am I missing something?
the well, the treasure just got there. Oh yeah.
Could
So
have
yes,
decided
we
not
could have
to,
done
but
that.
could
Decide
have.
to get the Shielder down. Interesting. Yeah, could have cast the adversary post combat. A little awkward timing for a haste creature, but would have dealt with the Sorin. So choosing to give mental misstep
I mean,
another
it's more
card.
value. It's kill my Shieldred so I can get it back again.
But maybe Lavunga thinking I can get this Sorin down, off the battlefield without even,
Yeah.
using a card. And it looks like that might work because you got to figure if there was removal in Mountain Master's hand, there's a lot of juicy targets for it against a tapped out opponent. You would have seen them used.
Yeah, I feel like this is a meat hook that they're like, well, I just have to wait a turn so I can pick up the Shieldred as well.
And Lavunga, I would say, likely to sniff that out and not extend further onto this battlefield. We're seeing all of these at hit Sorin to play around a potential removal spell, or
It's the attack I would make.
yeah, or do you say I don't think you have the removal, so I'm gonna get 4 damage in?
I mean, you can do that, and sometimes I could see it being a thing, but then yeah, it's just get it off the board. These games go really long. You never want to like not kill the planeswalker and then that snowballs out of control.
I generally agree. With this Rakdos deck, we've seen the situations where every point matters. This is a deck where that might be the exception, and I've got to think there's no removal there after I get to untap. Ooh, there was an Otawara though. That's kind of the exception. So would have gotten very punished for going
Yeah.
for the aggressive line. And that makes sense for Mountain Master not to have used on their own
Yeah,
turn.
and they bounce the hearse so that it can't attack, I guess. And now we're gonna see a meat hook take this board down.
Okay. Yeah, Lamunga sniffing out the meat hook here, doesn't play any of the threats you see in his hand, knowing the board's gonna be
I
gone.
mean, without that in play, like what hand did they keep?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now there are 2 creatures in Lavunga's graveyard, so I expect they'll prioritize getting the hearse down right now to stop any corpse appraiser shenanigans.
Hmm.
And then they have plenty of treasures to get the fable down if they want to.
I don't. I think the best time to ever cast a fable is now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
boards are empty. You want to start getting that value.
these 6 cards in Lavunga's hands. We have the
Yes.
3 that we see on the screen, the unlicensed hearse that got bounced, and 2 unknowns.
Yep.
But a little bit behind on mana here. Yeah, down 3 lands. The treasures certainly help. But we could see a reverse situation of what happened in game 1, where if
Slamming a Shieldred.
interesting. If Lavunga's not able to, close this game out and we still see them at parity, then eventually he's going to hit that glut of lands like Mental Misstep did in that quarterfinal
I
match.
like this play actually because we know that they don't have removal, so they probably have some corpse, and now and because they bounced the hearse.
Yeah. So yeah, we still got the hearse down. They do have the removals, found the removal spell for Shieldred, but that had to have been drawn, you know, reasonably late. And just checking in on the clock situation, we see 7.5 minutes left for Master,
It's just not enough.
almost 11 for Lavunga, so still a pretty considerable advantage.
Yeah, 7.5 minutes is just not enough to win 2 games of Magic.
Not these games.
No.
Uh, you know, if you were to ask me which of these 2 decks is more sort of click intensive on the interface of Magic Online, I'd definitely answer Rakdos Sacrifice with all those Oni Cold Anvil
For
triggers and
sure.
things like that. But Lavunga, continuing to demonstrate mastery of his deck in multiple areas, and it's all paying off. A blitzed tenacious underdog here
Just
from
needing some value. Yeah, I
yeah,
get it. I don't have any card advantage. I need to get out of this.
has the mana spare.
The hearse is like, that's all right. I'll pick you up. I'm cool with that. All right, Meat Hook's gonna trigger. Blitz is gonna trigger.
Now 3 cards in hand for both players, but only an advantage on the battlefield for Lavunga. Normally we see the person with the meat hook massacre be the person that's difficult to attack, but with nothing else, the meat hook's not really doing much to protect your life total.
Yeah, but good thing that the board isn't powerful enough to do much damage.
Yeah.
And Lavonga has a very active hand, so we're gonna see a lot of posturing here, just back and forth.
You could try to get aggressive here with the bloodthirsty adversary, but that's not what these games are about. You don't want to get overly aggressive until you know you're going to be ending the game. So, wait on that adversary, get some value out of it later. We've Right now we've got enchantment artifact on the battlefield, so you could thirsty adversary, you know, pay for the one trigger, cast soul transfer, get
Hmm.
something back, exile something. That is a value train.
Yeah, and with a Fable, even if these get Wrath, that play is still possible for the next few
Yeah.
turns.
You could even imagine at some point getting to pay for the adversary twice, getting 2 spells out of it.
Oh, I couldn't even dream of that much value. Are we gonna see another Meat Hook? I feel like we are. Yeah, there it is.
Solid.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense why you want to play the second Fable because you're like, what else could my opponent have in hand?
Yeah. A little bit of a flood situation here for Mountain Master, but if they hold on long enough, eventually,
They'll
those
time
land.
out.
Well, yeah, that's true. I was going to say eventually those land counts even out, which is true, but
No, I know
that's
it.
not a line the Mountain Master can really pursue given
Yeah.
their clock situation because they've fallen now 4 minutes behind.
I knew where you were going, but I had to go
Yeah.
with it.
Their synthesizer hitting the
Into an
anvil.
anvil.
We can sack a treasure to get this going. Yep. And then cast Fable. So this worked out perfectly. And yeah, looks like Lavunga is going to be punching their ticket to our December Invitational.
What a amazing and high profile player to get there. I mean, the game is not over, but just the time deficit, you can't against this Rakdos deck, you can't give them that much ground in game 1.
Yeah, it's so hard because the games are so intricate, so you feel like you need to take your time to play them well, but you can't take too much time.
I mean, how many times have you played in opens or Grand Prix or Pro Tours where y'all know the format really well, you know the matchup, and after you both play your first land, you look at each other and say, "All right, it's time for us to play really fast." And there's 50 minutes, 48 minutes left on the clock, and you both are like, "It's gonna take us a long time to get through this."
Yeah, I had a Golgari Delirium mirror playing for top 8 of an open against Brennan DeCandio, where we both knew the matchup going in, and we're talking about playing fast while we were shuffling.
Yep.
And we played lightning speed, barely finished 3 games. Each of the first 2 games were decided by punts on both sides. We just had
As both of you do.
we just had 1 punt, playing very quickly, and then in game 3, he punted, and then I punted back, so he
Wait,
won the
wait,
match.
one Noan punt. Just for so we get the story right.
Yes,
It's
one
one
that we
punt you
noticed.
both noticed,
Yeah,
okay.
it was
Alright, so yeah, I mean, that sounds wild. Alright, so we're gonna see this.
so the Sorin is gonna merit the Bloodthirsty Adversary on the soul transfer. The with a Fable on the battlefield, so we do have artifact and enchantment. Is there a creature to something to
No,
revive?
the corpse so, an Abrade took down the hearse, and then the corpse ate the Sheoldred. So there should not be another creature to get back.
Well, a little unfortunate. So we're not full valuing, but still being able to take the Sorin off the battlefield, get another good attacker.
Oh, and it does sound like they're still playing out, but Mountain Master did say GG.
Oh, I think we're seeing a double pay, and then we're gonna hit the Abrade
Yeah,
on
we're gonna
the
braid the corpse
s-
and the soul
and
transfer and
soul
just
transfer the
attack,
Sorin and attack for 6.
and then 1 extra
And then we
yeah,
only
but
have
the
one extra. Or no, we
no,
attack
we
for
don't.
7 because it's 2 counters. The adversary's a 4/4. So we get to attack for 7
Oh,
here.
and the sacrifice can happen.
Now the sacrifice doesn't happen until after the Meatook Massacre trigger, no matter what, because the sacrifice that's
Yes.
part of the resolution of the activated ability.
Yeah.
The trigger from Meatook will go on top. So it is not quite lethal here. But oh, did we not soul transfer the Sorin?
No, it looked like it abraded the synthesizer. Oh, yeah, you can sacrifice a non
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
creature.
we just sacrificed a different artifact. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, so the Sorin was irrelevant. We just needed the extra counter.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, Lavunga found the line. Uh,
I am really showing my, not playing that much lately.
I mean, there's a lot of things on the
3 a year
battlefield.
ago, Brad would be so mad at me right now.
I'm sure he would.
He would. He'd be
But
so mad, missing sacrifice lines. Oh,
I mean, that is a real incredible display here so far from Lavunga. 2040 through 2 Grixis pilots.
and 2 matches that looked identical. That's when I was dominating tournaments, like Grand Prix, its matches were systematic. Like,
Yeah.
each match against the same archetype felt like the same match. And that's what I saw here. I've
Yeah.
just been seeing him do the same thing to everyone in a very good fashion. He knows this deck well. He knows what he's doing, and the format is going to have to adapt to this because Rakdos Sacrifice was a very low percentage of the field. 2 of the best players, top 12 with this deck, with
Yeah.
one of them now going to the finals, going to the December Invitational. And do we know who is joining them in the finals, or are they still battling it out? All right, how deep are they in? Oh no. Okay, we might not be able to get the match. Oh, okay. Yeah, we might have
Big,
difficulty jumping into that match.
big sad.
That would be
So
a big sad.
yeah. Our other half of the bracket here in the semifinals, we've got Raging Machismo. These are both Grixis pilots, by the way. Raging Machismo is our number 1 overall seed, undefeated so far in the tournament.
Yeah,
So that would be an exciting finals. But also, Bill Ducat, another great player on Grixis, and I know he was one of your picks to make the finals.
he was.
Lavunga was one of mine, so we could have 2 of our picks in the
Oh,
finals,
but
which would be great.
I still have to go with Levunga in the finals. Like, after
Yeah.
these matches, I'm like, "Whoo, that deck is flying through Grixis, just gobbling them up."
Yeah, and I think after the quarterfinals, you could have said, "Oh, mental missteps draws didn't quite, seem great there, especially in game 1 with the missed land drops early." But I thought Mountain Masters draw, especially in the first game, very solid.
Mhm.
Looked solidly ahead for most of that game. And Lavunga just executed their game plan to a T, down to that one. Obnixilus leveraged everything he needed to out of all those experimental synthesizers. Really impressive. That first game of the semifinals is the one to watch if you want to be picking up this Rakdos Sacrifice deck and run the same clinic on Grixis
There's
playlists.
so many plays that Lavunga makes that is all about value that I just don't think you could afford. Like when there's a chance for tempo, he's not taking it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think that the Rakdos Sacrifice deck allows you to do, we've talked a lot about Meat Hook Massacre and the life cushion that generates. Sack supplements it with Oni Cult Anvil that was also providing a life cushion, not only from the activated ability and the drain from it, but also just creating more blockers that get in the
Yep.
way and preventing damage that way. So I think Lavunga is, acutely aware of how good his deck is at just stymieing the opponent's aggression. So he knows he does have that time to be able to eke out every little bit of value from his cards.
Yeah, it's truly impressive. Now, I do believe we're not able to get that match, so we are going to be going to a short break before the finals. Uh Guldacock won, great. So, that yeah, we're going to take a short break while the players get set up for the finals. You will not miss a second of that match. We will be holding the finals for that, but it'll be Goldicott versus Lavunga, Rakdos Sacrifice versus Grixis mid range here on the Mandatory Series for all the marbles. Both players go into December. It's actually not for all the marbles anymore, is it?
Well, the marbles are mine, and I'm not giving them up.
They're still here though.
I'm taking them home.
I don't believe so. You're not taking them in my car.
Uh, Corey, I've
All
officially
right,
won them
we'll
back.
be back. We'll be back.
When I defeated Corey in the
I'm sorry
semifinals
for
of
starting
Columbus.
this, everyone. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Brad Nelson. This is Ross Merriam, and we are here for the finals of the September Mana Trader Standard Series. We've got two players that are going to the December Invitational, but they still have one more match to play out for $1,000.
Yeah, so still a lot of the line here for both players, and honestly, a little bit of bragging rights on the line for the player we've been following through the elimination rounds. Lavunga has dispatched two of the Grixis mid-range, pilots in our top eight. There were four. We still have one remaining for him to play in the finals. This is Gold Ducat. So can he make it a clean sweep 3-0? Right now hasn't dropped a game in the first two matches. Demonstrate not only mastery of his deck, but dominance in what is the premier matchup in standard. Grix is the most popular deck, the most successful deck in this tournament. So, it could be a really impressive showing that I would think would make waves throughout the rest of the standard format moving forward.
That's exactly right. Like earlier yesterday, I brought up, like, I was kind of jaded. I was like, I don't think there's a deck that can beat these two top dogs, right? These Esper and Grixis mid-range decks. But this is exactly what's happened. This Rakdos Sacrifice deck was low in the percentage of the metagame. It's shooting up. Yeah, and let's show this bracket here with Goldicott and Lavunga in the finals. And Lavunga did dispatch all of these players. And now the question is, in standard, do these decks adapt to have better answers for the matchup? Or do we see Rakdos Sacrifice start climbing the ranks in metagame percentage because it can actually beat these matchups? Now, let's actually pull up Goldicott's list because it is a little bit more interesting uh, for a matchup like this. And especially with a card that you've been calling out a lot, Siphon Insight. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, one we've seen in the more creature light versions of Grixis. Now, normally in combination with the creature light versions and Siphon Insight, you see more counter spells. And that
Mhm.
makes sense. Siphon Insight is something that you can do on their end step to generate some value turns where they don't play something you want to counter. But Gold Ducat's list, only 3 copies of Make Disappear in the main deck. There is the 4th in the sideboard, but the other players had all 4 in the main deck. No Spell Pierces that we saw on some other Grixis lists. Only some negates in the board, no Disdainful Strokes. So I think the combination of Siphon Insight, but not as many counter spells, actually makes this the toughest matchup for Lavunga yet among our Grixis lists.
Yeah, we have 3 negates, 3 abrades, the Shielders in the sideboard, a 4th Reckoner Bankbuster coming in, and that make just and yeah, the Siphon Insight. Just so much value going to be
Also
deployed.
has 4 meat hooks in the 75. Those could be important.
Truly impressive. Yeah, and let the players start so they can start playing because we've seen Lavunga's list a ton. And I just want to see how this plays out. Like we've seen Lavunga dispatch 2 Grixis already. This seems like the toughest. I thought Goldicott played so well yesterday. And now, we've been following Luvunga, but Goldicott also has been beaten up on all of the matchups they've been playing against
Yeah.
too.
Dispatched our lone undefeated player in
Yep.
the semifinals, Raging Machismo, in a Grixis mirror. So definitely demonstrating some chops with the Grixis deck himself throughout this tournament. This should be a very interesting and hard fought finals.
You know what? I'm gonna stick with my instinct. I thought Goldicott was gonna be here, and that's my pick for this match.
Yeah, and I'm on Team Lavunga, Team Rakdos
You
Sacrifice.
would be on Team Luvunga.
I'm on, yeah, I'm on. Initially, it was just to be on Team Rakdos Sacrifice, but certainly to be on Team Lavunga, it just it sweetens the deal.
How much happiness do you get when I lose big matches on coverage, or are you not watching them?
Um, so maybe I would say less than you think, but more than the average person would think.
Sure. I'm not saying that you're rooting for the other person. You're just rooting against me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense, makes sense. Are the players ready? And why do I do this with Russ? Okay, perfect. They're still getting their match set up and everything. So, yeah, let's take a look at Lavunga's list just to set the complete stage here so all of our viewers can see what we're going to be seeing. We're going to be seeing Lavunga's lots of fun ofs and Rakdos Sacrifice synergies, right? There's the experimental synthesizers to go along with the Oni Cult anvils, uh, a bunch of different unique one ofs for a deck that just grinds out for very long games. And I actually like decks like this having those options because you are not only discarding situational cards to fables, you dig through so many cards in your deck each game that you're going to find these cards that can have really high impacts, like we saw the adversary have last game.
Yeah. And then, as you said, in the situations where they're bad, you just catch them to Fable, turn them into something else. Discard them to a blood token, which this deck makes plenty of. So, yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense when you know you're going to play not only games with your deck where you have a lot of ways to tear through your deck and find new cards. You're playing very long games. We've seen Lunga's opponent have under 10 minutes on their clock after game one in both rounds of the elimination rounds. So yeah, the one underdog, this one stronghold arena, the one bloodthirsty adversary, all very powerful cards in certain situations, but you don't want to draw a lot of them. And the same with the one Obnixilis. And we've seen the stronghold arena be very good in certain spots in these two rounds that he's played. The adversary came up big to finish the last match, and the Obnixilis certainly did the heavy lifting in the game one of the semifinals. So all of them showing their chops here, and it really demonstrates very, normally I would say having a lot of those one ofs is kind of loose deck building, uh, but in this case it makes a lot of sense and really shows very strong deck building.
Yeah, I think that both players have shown their chops in not only prowess of the format but also in deck building. And you know what? I do agree with you on the extent that there are times that you just want to play, 9 4s and 26 lands or 24 lands, excuse me. And there's a lot of times with standard, it's the opposite lately. Like you just want a few one ofs that have high impacts that are just unique that and it's not for having to play around an open deck list, right? Because the Mana Trench series has open deck lists for players. As I believe that over COVID we really refined what those digital tournament structures looked like. And I'm always pro open deck list when it comes to digital with coverage. But too many players would early just put cards in so players play around them, right? And that I don't like that kind of deck. But don't put a negate in your main deck unless there's a reason to have a negate in your main deck.
Yeah,
That's not they'll play around it.
yeah. Then no, there has to be a concrete reason for it.
And I see a lot of reasons for all of these. The only one, the stronghold is the one that still has to prove to me, but it is a powerful card and it is a good card that you can deploy to the board when you don't want to get meat hook. So they're going to wait on a meat hook and you're like, gotcha, I'm going to get a little bit more card advantage out of it.
Yeah, and in this deck specifically, you have the Oni Cult Anvils that can help you go really wide. So good card when you've got that engine humming, but don't, like you said, don't want to extend it into the meat hook.
Yeah. And just checking in again. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, Goldicott is currently still just finalizing downloads of the hand cam. So bring it back to us. And we'll talk a little bit about what we learned in standard. And actually, let's you know what? We're gonna take a short break. Not an actual break. A break from talking about standard.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And let's talk about setting the stage for November's series. November is going to be Pioneer.
You mean October?
Yeah, there is another month between September and
Yeah.
November, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
October.
Septis 7, Octus 8.
No, no, no. You don't have to be, you know, rude
Well, it's
about
funny
it.
because they're no longer the 7th and 8th month.
Uh,
They
Do,
used to be.
you're kind of pretentious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With a smile. Okay, yeah. But so we've got Pioneer next month.
You said we were taking a break. I thought I could get a history lesson
Oh, well, we don't have
in.
enough time for that. Do not get Russ started on history. It will be a seminar.
Okay, so October is Pioneer. What did you want to say about Pioneer?
Well, let's talk about Pioneer a little bit. Have you been looking into it? I mean, I know that
I've
you've
been
qualified.
following it quite a bit,
Yeah.
and it is kind of similar to Standard in that right now the book on it is it's a 2 deck format. Do you want to play Rakdos Midrange? Do you want to play Mono Green Devotion? And now
These are like two things that I
yeah.
like to play.
And much like again, the Grixis and Esper format, there's a lot of ways to build them. There's a lot of different options in deck building for both Grixis and Esper and Standard. In with Green Devotion, do you splash? If you do, what do you splash for?
Hmm.
Do you splash black for Vraska? Do you splash blue and white for Teferi? With do you not splash at all? And then with
You have all these questions, but there's a key answer.
what?
Does Edgar Megish give you a decklist and sideboard guide? Because that's what I do a lot.
Well, Edgar has been playing a lot of Rakdos midrange. He's on that side of it, and his list is very different than most.
Yeah.
He's playing 0 Graveyard Trespasser and 4 Liliana. Most lists are playing 3 Liliana, 3 Trespasser, and cutting around the edges somewhere else. Do you play Shieldred? Do you play Kalitas? Do you play a split? So there's a lot of deck building options in these decks, but those two have definitely are the most proven right now. Even with the addition of a new set, we've seen a little bit of some new cards, but hasn't made a ton of waves yet. We're going to see another set come out right before the regional championships in November. But there's definitely going to be some opportunities for players to try to attack those 2 decks. So far, they haven't been successful, but we'll see if somebody can be.
Yeah, I'm just excited about not only just the entire manager series. I love that it's Pioneer next month, leading into regionals because I am super excited for the regional championships because there's going to be a ton of Pioneer tournaments around the world. This is the first real breath of large Wizards of the Coast organized play again. We're all getting back into our regions to play, qualifying for pro tours again,
Yeah.
not set championships. Pro Tours. We're qualifying for Pro Tours once again. It's the Pro Tour is going to be in my neck of the woods, down 3-hour drive for me. I mean, it has been a long road to get back to this level. I am excited. I want to see what's happening. And once November hits, we're going to have a buzz, like an explosion of data and conversations going on in social media and in content because each weekend there's going to be multiple different Pioneer tournaments influencing the next weeks.
Yes, and you can talk all you want about how the next set coming out right as the regional championship happens means that those tournaments don't have as much of a bearing. Like we've seen with Dominaria United, standard legal sets don't necessarily have a big impact in Pioneer. So those tournaments are going to set the metagame, and then we're going to go into the regional championship with the big question of: is there anything that really disrupts the established metagame out from that set? And I think that is awesome.
And to be fair, that usually is the case though lately, right? Like each set has influenced Pioneer.
Although DMU hasn't I guess shielded a little bit,
Liliana.
but it hasn't changed the metagame a ton. Rakdos midrange and Green Devotion were the 2 best decks going into DMU. They're the 2 best decks post DMU so far.
Well,
It's
yeah,
changed how those decks are
but
built.
but but next week's ban is gonna shake things up, and that's gonna. Oh, I should not have said that. No, I'm kidding. Okay, we're going into the match. I am kidding.
Yes.
I thought I got you for a second though.
You did not.
Ah, shucks. Well, let's get into the finals. I'll get you in the predictions here. All right, so we've got Goldicott on the bottom plane, Grixis mid-range, Lavunga 21 up top plane, Rakdos Sacrifice. Both players undefeated in top 8, obviously, but Lavunga's been the one practicing this matchup a whole lot more.
We'll see if Goldicott takes a different approach than either of Lavunga's previous two opponents. You know,
Do you keep a hand? I guess Lavunga does, and we do have a hand cam, but it's a colorless roadside reliquary with a voltage or with a mountain. So, oh, Sulfur Springs off the top. Well, all right, that storyline's dead.
I mean, I'm honestly surprised that I guess there was a roadside reliquary. That's a land as well, so it was a two lander,
Yeah, it was
but
a
no
two
black
lander. Yeah,
source. Okay, I think that's enough with synthesizer and bankbuster. Bankbusters on both sides here. I suspect they will just be sitting around drawing cards, but that likely advantages Gold Ducat because I think it's Lavunga who is most likely to miss a land drop at some point. There we see the reliquary. No fourth land coming that turn.
and it's not a you don't want to get that Fable down here. Just run it into a counter spell.
Exactly. It's tempting because Fable lets you see one more card towards your fourth land. Not with all that mana up from Gold Ducat. I know there's only 3 copies of Make Disappear in his list, but that's enough to scare me away from that line.
I'm just gonna say Jack Lionheart. I know that this is a few minutes late, saying that Lavunga reached the finals with Brad commenting was fate, and I'm gonna say you should opt out of here. Adrian got it. You didn't get it. He opted into it with a scry on the last turn to kill me. The next fate. Okay, back to the game.
Is that a let's
It's just yeah, just an activation.
discuss? Yeah.
Yeah, and a draw. Oh wait, am I seeing this right? Goldicott is on a deep mulligan that I did not notice.
So the Bankbuster has drawn 1 card, so that's replaced itself,
Yeah,
which means we've seen 8 cards on the play on turn 4 when we should have seen 10. So that's a mull to 5.
yeah, mull to 5.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a very big deal
And honestly, I think that makes it easier for Lavunga to keep that riskier lowland hand. Thinking about
that they're on a mulligan at
yeah.
least.
So my opponent's unlikely to be able to either they're going to spend some time drawing cards to undo the mulligan, or in which case I have time to draw lands, or you know they're you know going to
Just not a coward.
yeah.
Let's just go with that one. It has a synthesizer and a bank buster and not a coward.
We'll see how that
That plays out next turn.
yeah.
Yeah. When you have a synthesizer and you have the draw off the bank buster, you have 2 draws off bank buster, a draw, and synthesizer to make that land drop. Yeah, I wonder what Goldicott's gonna do here.
And honestly, even if you miss the land drop for a turn, like it's not like you're under any pressure.
All right. Well,
Here's land 4. So we're giggling at chat in case you were unaware.
all right. So we've got the Sulphur Springs coming down, tapping for black mana. All right, yeah, just
Okay, so
getting
that
the
must have
arena
been the
down.
draw for turn. Perfectly fine card to cast here.
Yeah, get it down early.
Yeah, lets you just continue drawing cards with Bankbuster so you can make your land drops. Doesn't get countered by Make Disappear. Yeah, perfectly fine card to cast there. And it's not doing anything right now, but it certainly could as the game goes on. If you find an Oni Cult Anvil.
Yeah, and that is one of the big draws. That's that Siphon Insight, one of those great ways to get back that card advantage.
Now, importantly, Siphon Insight, you look at the top 3 and exile one of them from your opponent's deck,
Yes.
and then the other 2 go back in the deck,
Yeah.
which is very important because I think if Siphon Insight just took 3 cards off your deck every time you cast it, it would be impossible to beat because you would just deck with how long these
Oh,
games
yeah.
go. With 4 Siphon Insights, it's like, okay, you're
That's
24 cards
24
down.
cards. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I made sure to read that one before the match because that would have been an odd to difference maker.
But yeah, standard would play out a lot different if that was how that card worked. All right. Gonna cast a Harvester, tapping out.
Okay, so now this is significant pressure. We've got Harvester and the pilot token crewing Bankbuster. Now Lavunga's under pressure to make land drops, finds 2 more, and start answering the battlefield. We do see a couple Infernal Grasps, so he has the tools to do that. He's found the lands that he needed. So Lavunga looking good here to eventually punish Gold Ducat for having mulligan to 5. You got to expect he's going to be the first person to run out of gas, but 3 cards off of Bankbuster 2 extra cards off this Siphon Insight. Maybe he just never does.
Yeah, you could just continue to grind it out.
And as the game goes on longer and longer, difference of the opening mulligan becomes less and less. 7 cards versus 5 cards is a big deal. 27 cards versus 25 cards, not nearly as big a deal. You know, one of the things that we haven't brought up yet that may be a secret, difference in the matchup for Rakdos, these Grixis decks have a significantly higher land count.
Yes, and speaking of ways to get back out of a hole, we've got a Sorin on the battlefield.
Love Sorin as a play here because you've got the pressure already on your opponent's life total with the 2 creatures and the Bankbuster. So you want another threat on the battlefield that isn't going to be vulnerable to a Meat Hook Massacre, but is still generating more of an advantage. Sorin, perfect.
Yes, such an unbelievably powerful card in a matchup like this. All right, we're going to see Bankbuster actually activate before the Sorin's Look ability. And then Voltage. Oh, and then I see. And then now that was cast, I like this. Drew and then Voltage surged the Harvester with the trigger on the stack because that says, that signals because sorcery speed, it's like I know what you did with your turn, so I just want to get this off the board now so it doesn't kill my goblin.
Yep.
Ha! The Goldicott Anvil.
And
Second treasure killing that off. That was beautiful.
it's also important for Goldicott to maintain a somewhat wide battlefield here to stop that Stronghold Arena from generating an advantage. So that Anvil, sneakily very good at that. Kind of giving Lavunga a taste of his own medicine.
I always do love cards like Siphon Insight that do that. Nightshade Predator, was that a Nightvale Predator?
Oh, yeah, the one blue black one.
Well, no,
You're thinking of Nightvale Spectre.
Nightvale Spectre, and then there's the
Was it was an I
Spectre, maybe.
something Trespasser?
I don't know. You think I don't remember. I don't know half the cards in these decks. I don't know card names.
Chat will tell us in 7 minutes.
You don't need to look it up.
Oh, I do.
Your brain works weird.
Yep.
All right, so we're deciding on this Fable to see what to discard.
Thief of Sanity.
There it is.
Apparently, the only 3 mana blue and black 2/2 flyer in all of Magic.
Wow. All right, so double black. Does that mean we are Meat Hook again? It seems. So now this Meat Hook Massacre can say, "Hey, do you want to activate your Bankbuster?" And we'll trade them. But we know that an Infernal Grasp will come down, and that Sorin's going to take 2 or
Yeah.
3, excuse me.
Yeah, so this is a play trying to pressure that Sorin, which is the most important thing to remove from Goldicott's side of the battlefield. And does have the Infernal Grasp to punish the Bankbuster here. With these Siphon Insights, it almost feels more like a mirror match.
Well, right now it does,
Yeah, when
yeah.
you hit the anvils. Then I'm trying to think like what is the Corpse Appraiser? If we can get those to fire, is the advantage that Goldicott will have. Okay, so Infernal Grasp does take out the Bankbuster. Lunga's Bankbuster will come in for 3 because it got shrunk by the Meat Hook. So that's going to get the Sorin. Oh,
Oh, going to the face to get that
okay,
card.
that's fine. Yeah.
I don't know if you. I mean, the only scary thing is you want to make sure that Sorin does an ultimate, right? What is Sorin's ultimate? I thought it was good.
-7 deals 13 damage to any target. You gain 13 life.
It might be good.
Well, with an Onicult Anvil, that can get you down to 13. Then Lavunga's got the Meat Hook, so yeah, we could see life totals very carefully managed if Lavunga tries to get a little risky and let that Sorin get up.
All right, hits Fable. Casts Fable. Nope, casts a Corpse Praiser.
What is that? That appraiser exiles Blood Tithe Harvester from,
Their own
yeah,
graveyard.
Goldicot's own graveyard. So the Fable.
Yeah, Fable. And then do they want a 1/1 to also protect their board? And they do. So they're going to sack that blood token.
Now, should I mean we know Luenga's hand, so yeah, that I'm gonna say if that 1/1 goes away, now the anvil doesn't really have any food. A little risky there, but nothing to really punish you. So
All right, so we have a Voltage Surge.
now that can go to the Sorin if Luenga wants. I would imagine the Goblin Shaman is the juiciest target.
Going for the sword and
Going for
then
the Sorin.
kicking adversary to kill it, take it, finish it off.
Do we have enough mana for that?
Yeah, there's 4 in play and
Okay,
a
yeah.
fifth to cast.
So have to hit it the proving ground off of the synthesizer. So we have to give up that card because that's a tapped land in order to do this. But getting the Sorin off the battlefield is certainly worth it.
Yeah. Now, Bye
Now,
Bye Soren has a 3/3.
now this is
So,
one of the few times we've seen Lavunga sacrifice synthesizer to something other than its own ability. So not getting that token. Golducott, doing a good job of forcing him into a more awkward spot.
yeah, just needed to do that to be able to kill that Soren.
Yeah, it needed to be mana efficient because of the adversary. And at this point, despite the mulligan to 5, Golducott's in a relatively good position. You could argue that he's ahead. I would say pretty even. Resources look relatively even. Anything, Golducott's a little bit ahead. Now, one big thing will be, does Goldegod have an answer to that reflection? Because with the way Bloodthirst Adversary is worded, it's not kicker when you cast a spell, it's a trigger when it enters the battlefield. If you copy Adversary, you get the opportunity to keep
Oh,
recasting
you are correct.
spells from
I
your
wasn't thinking
graveyard.
about that. That could be devastating just picking off all these creatures.
That is what we in the business like to call a combo, short for combination.
Is so only people in the business use that?
No, people outside the business just don't like to.
Yeah. People call it commander.
Yeah. Well, plenty of removal here as Goldutt's hand cam perks up. So that combo not going to be coming online. And instead, a fully powered soul transfer going to rebuy the Sorin. Really powerful play here. And now you got to say Golducott in the driver's seat.
Oh, for sure. Has all of these card advantage engines just fully revving. More creatures, more cards, more avenues to find additional ones.
Interesting here. Hard to say what it is Lavunga was lacking in this game. You know, I guess his start was just really slow. I think that's one of the advantages of the Rakdos Sack deck. It's a very lean deck.
I just think that all the other builds don't have as many card advantage engines, and they got all online for Goldicott immediately.
Yeah, the Siphon Insights, has been solid getting that Oni Cult Anvil, but all the Siphon Insight is the only additional one, and that so that
I
the,
mean, besides removal spells, every card that Goldicott has been casting has some kind of manipulation. There's no shielder that just dies. There's no, you know what I mean? Like they're all like
yeah,
performing that task.
I'm really committing to the uh, attrition plan. Here we see a shielded off that experimental synthesizer, but there is a grasp in Goldicott's hand, so he can handle that. There's no problem.
And we should see that get fired off before draw step.
And one thing I will say from Lavunga's side, that Stronghold Arena has not looked particularly good. It has drawn one card, so it's at least cycled.
It's just the one card that I feel like is kind of a fun of. And I'm not saying anything. I At the Invitational last year, I'm still embarrassed about this, but I chose to play 3 Ragavan, 1 Dark Confidant.
Okay, here's Roadside Reliquary getting cashed in in response to the removal spell on the Shieldred, so you'll get the life out of it. And
Yeah.
we do have enchantment and artifact, so that's drawing 2 cards. And we see they are Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Meat Hook Massacre. Ding, ding.
Two very important, powerful enchantments in standard.
So to me, the big issue I think again for Lavunga is the Sorin that came doesn't have a great answer to that. But is going to be able to clear Goldukot's battlefield with this Meat Hook and start rebuilding with a Fable. Now the not being able to answer these Sorens, it's we've normally seen Lavunga be the person who is ahead.
Well, things can switch really quickly next turn because that Meat Hook Massacre combined with the Voltigeurs can clean off the board, um, and leave the adversary as well.
Yeah, so you can cast it for 2 and then use the surge to finish off
And then
the
if there's an addition, if they find a land off the top, then can cast the Fable to crew and actually deal 4 damage to that Sorin. And oh,
Oh.
that's a big mistake.
Yeah, making the vampire token there. The odd to do when you feels like you're ahead on the battlefield too. I think that's the first misstep we've really seen, and Goldicott is going to be immediately punished for it. Gets his meat hook down for no value, but that will offset what the second meat hook does for Lavunga.
This is yeah, if there's a land off the top, right? Because it's a Meat Hook for 2. Oh, no, it has to be for 3 now with the 2/3/3s.
Yeah.
So there is no way to punish that Sorin currently. So it's not as devastating.
Well, you can crew the Bank Buster first, meat hook for 3, attack it for 1, and then voltage surge it down.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you just have to take that line, right?
Um, Now that does run afoul of a make disappear. You haven't seen any yet out of Goldicott. So yeah, it looks like he's just gonna the synthesizer to the surge, try to get a couple more land drops in here before meat hooking the battlefield, which
Okay.
I'm okay with.
Yeah, I just take it out.
Yeah, we we see that there is no make disappear there, but Lavunga doesn't know that, and that's a card that could easily be in
But now don't you have to
Goldicott's hand.
grasp something? This is still not a great spot because if you don't grasp this Kiki now, that can gain card advantage.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's something that needed to happen. So maybe the Fable was a little aggressive there. Maybe just focus on dealing with the battlefield. And if you're at 16, you could take one hit and
Yeah.
be okay. Yeah, maybe.
Feels like a lot of value happening right now.
Yeah, and that value is going to allow Goldukat to recover from the Meathook massacre. And now that Lavunga has played his Fable, he doesn't really have much back. He's going to lose the Goblin to the Meathook, and Corpse Appraiser finding another Appraiser. So we are chaining value.
And we still have Siphon Insight. Yeah, this is
Yeah. So honestly, even with the meat hooks, hmm, maybe Lavunga trying to play around, make disappear in a spot where he couldn't
yeah.
afford it.
But could have. No, I mean you could have massacred for 3, still voltage and had 2 mana. Oh, the mass yeah,
Yeah,
you would do it
they
for
can
4.
make
Yeah, yeah,
disappear for
yeah, yeah,
4.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, coming in with the evasion and a 3/3. Not even gonna attempt to eat it with the bank buster.
Yeah. Interesting because these are open deck lists, and Goldukat does not have voltage surges in his deck. So it's cut down. So I don't think there's a punish there.
Except if you want to keep the artifact around and if you lose it. Don't know what the value would be there, but okay. So we saw
Do not see any cards discarded. Oh yeah, Lavunga wanted the mountain there so they could play around, make disappear.
Yeah.
Um, so getting even a little like further punished, right? You know, if you know the make disappear is not there, you're 100% discarding that mountain
Yeah.
and getting a better card. Um, could have also discarded the Takanuma because I don't really. I guess you're going to wipe the battlefield here, and the Takanuma can bring back the adversary. So an adversary here is awesome. That keeping the Takanuma makes sense even with no creatures in the graveyard at the moment. We could see a big adversary.
Unbelievably big.
I count 9 mana, so that's 2 that's
Two currently.
yeah, 2 mana away from a third.
So what is this mana getting dumped into currently? Cycle potentially?
Yeah, there's 4 cards in Goldicot's hand, and our hand cam's only showing 3, so and I think the Mito can got cast. Might be 2 unknowns. Double make disappear. That would be such a huge punish.
No, it can't be. Oh, it's just bouncing
Aurora,
a
my corpse appraiser.
fine with that.
Yeah. Or get my card advantage still going. Now, we could see an Infernal Grasp in response, which I think makes a lot of sense. That does stop an end of turn Takanuma for the adversary,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, stopping the Corpse Appraiser for your opponent, I think, more important. Okay, so now the battlefields are clear. There is not a ton going on in Goldicot's hand.
Yeah.
It sort of
Now that
makes
the dust settles, you crew it. So you can get that 1 point in.
yeah, all these meat hook triggers are going to cancel out since there's one on both sides. So we're going to get 1 point in. Life totals will be 8 for Lavunga and 13 for Goldicott. They have a blood tithe harvester, which will get a blood. Then you can ditch the Shivan Reef, make a token from the anvil. See 2 fresh cards with the blood in your draw step. So, but now the Stronghold Arena doing things.
Well, we'll see, right? Yeah, it did take the 2 damage for it.
Yeah, and
Oh,
this
did they F6 so they didn't cast it? Yeah, they F6'd,
ooh,
forgetting maybe about the
and
stronghold.
now we've seen clock be important, but yeah, getting punished there. And Goldicott finding a Fable, excellent draw.
Just a complete reload.
Yeah, and now doesn't even need to ditch the Shivan Reef to the blood. It's gonna just gonna sack into the anvil, I guess.
Yeah, just keep
Yeah,
keep digging.
yeah. The hand
Keep
is
chipping away, gaining some cards. Oh, interesting. Going to do it that way to get a loot out.
yeah, still gonna do
This
that.
keeps them from siphon inciting for the turn.
They'll have time to siphon insight, so I'm cool with that.
All right.
Oni Cult Anvil because it can trigger every turn is sort of a renewable resource. So in a matchup like this, if you're eking out all your value, you want to be triggering that every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see the awkward Bagbuster that should already be on the battlefield. Ooh, no, cycle first
Bunga's
into his
just
own Fable. So that's not only very good for later on getting another reflection. It also represents
it's
enough
getting
power.
disappeared.
Oh no! Yeah, the showing you that even more of a reason to make that token. We
Yes.
had the make disappear. That's huge. Now we can't crew the bank buster, and this is going to be a pretty good attack from uh from Goldicott. And yeah, even plays the Takanuma now so far behind on the battlefield. Needs to be using the mana to draw cards with bank buster. Wouldn't have needed to do that had he
No.
cast the bank buster last turn. So a lot of small punishes adding up for Lavunga here at the end of this first game. Corpse Appraiser, another great draw at the top from Gold Ducat, and he is looking to end this game.
And better because again, if we look at clocks, they are 3.5 minutes down.
Yeah.
Savunga is making sure to have uh the clock on lock.
Now, I believe in the semifinals, the opponent had 10:51 for the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And Gold Ducat is coming up on that mark. And the game is not quite over yet, but
No, it is not.
I could easily see it over next turn for Gul Dukat if nothing good comes off the top of Lavunga's deck. And honestly, even if Lavunga finds the goods to stabilize here, Gul Dukat has now an face down card and Exiler from that Siphon Insight, two Siphon Insights in the graveyard, and a Sorin in hand. So plenty back to keep going.
Yeah,
And
just the resources just keep hitting here.
so this is going to get to 4. Um,
So close, one away, right? Oh no, it's the opposite.
well, yes, on
Yeah.
yeah, on upkeep we could bring Lavunga to 2, but see if yeah, we can sack this treasure now and cast the Sorin, get a 1/1,
Yeah.
get this engine online. And yeah, I don't see it. There's going to need to be another meat hook, and I'm not even sure if there is one. This is game 1. Lavunga does have 3 in their main deck, so
Yeah.
they've got one more. I think that's step 1, but it's yeah, Haunted Ridge is certainly not it. I think you need to see meat hook and another piece of gas, maybe a soul transfer to deal with the Sorin and maybe get something back. But I'm not even sure if there are any creatures to bring back because of these corpse appraisers.
And an Epicure to deal 1 damage.
Blood Tithe Harvester is not even close to good enough. And a
Wow.
mountain, yep. I guess we got one more draw
Yeah.
off the blood.
Hope to find the final Meat Hook Massacre,
Yep.
maybe.
Shieldred, but no ways
No
to
way
draw
to
more
draw. Yeah.
cards. They have 2 blockers. Yeah, this is GG. But if I'm Lavunga, I'm F6ing and passing the
Oh
turn.
yeah, make them use the time.
Interesting from Gul Dukat to cast an very unnecessary Siphon Insight, right?
Yeah, just take the draw and just attack.
Yeah. This is an open deck list, so it's not like you're getting information
Mm-mm.
from casting those. Well, there's another small decision that could end up punishing him.
The style points of winning
Yeah.
with 2 of your opponent's anvils. Just LOL.
I mean, if I'm Lavunga, I'm happy about that. You know, now you're down to 935.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to figure from Lavunga's spot, if he maintains that lead in clock, he really only needs to win game 2.
He might not need to win game 2.
Yeah, he could win this match 0-2.
Yes. Even that attack wasn't necessary. Just sacrifice both of the anvils to themselves.
Yeah, because the meat hooks will.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you just sacrifice the anvils.
Yeah. All right. So on Lavunga's side, I really don't know how has he been sideboarding. I feel like
Pretty sure the Epicures have been coming out. The slow
yes.
impact card. So I think that has been step 1. Um, I would imagine the Stronghold Arena comes out. That's like a card is only good when you're pressing an advantage. Um, so did we see it in a game 2?
I think we did.
Yeah. Yeah. But beyond the Epicures, it's really unclear because we saw Shieldred in game 2. Maybe you're expecting some graveyard hate, so
Odd Nixilis might come out. The Tenacious Underdog probably comes out. Maybe a spot removal, maybe one of the meat hooks. But yeah, because what are we bringing in? We've been seeing this the soul transfers, the Sorens, the Bank Busters, and the Hearse. So that's a lot of cards.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy because I think Galdecott actually has a deck advantage. The first time, and I just think that this list looks great. Like if I was going to be grinding out on Arena or Magic Online with Grixis, I'd be playing this list. It looks fun. It looks clean. Looks like a ton of care and time has been sunk into it. But they have lower clock, and I think that clock management in this format, the way that it is right now, is super important. And Vunga has been taking care of that each match,
yeah.
prioritizing time over the best play.
And yeah, to the point where it punished him. He had that
Yes.
F6 and missed the opportunity to cast the top deck of Bankbuster off of his Stronghold Arena. Um, and honestly, if he had realized it, there's a point with the Stronghold Arena where it stops you and says, "Do you want to draw the card?" You could have undone the F6, the auto yield, and said yes. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Just was playing fast and got hit by it.
yep. Now I will say it's not. We haven't necessarily seen the soul transfers from the sideboard for Lavunga come in because he has two in the main. So we don't know how many he has in post board. And against Goldicot's main deck, you wouldn't want you'd hardly want any. I guess you want them for the Sorens, but they don't have they don't have Shieldred. Shieldred might not come in.
Yep.
There's no extra planeswalkers in the sideboard for Goldicott. So if it's just two Sorens, how many soul transfers do you want? Now they still get to bring back a card, so they're probably still good.
I think they still are because they're just so high impact, and if a Sorin lives, it's
Yeah,
really bad, and both decks have a lot of the same card event.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. This is so crazy. It's been a long time since I've seen the standard format with this density of card advantage built into the
yeah.
decks.
Maybe it's the Infernal Grasps that come out because
Maybe, but then if you take out all of that, their Shelter could run away with the game pretty easily.
well, if you've got four soul transfers or three or
Yeah, that's
four,
true.
you
Yeah,
feel okay. Voltage Surge can finish it off sometimes.
I
Um,
do like that.
yeah. I wonder if the underdog comes out just as like another
Yeah, I brought that because it's also getting corpse transferred
yeah, yeah,
or not corpse
corpse
transferred,
appraiser.
corpse appraised.
Yeah. So I imagine that comes out, but okay, we have started game two here, and Luenga starts with a turn two Hearse, as he has done many times in the post board games. Grixis has what looks like a very good hand here.
Except it,
Actually, I'm surprised that the Hearse came down on turn two instead of a Bank Buster, right? Because that would have allowed you to not run into a counter spell, but maybe Luenga knows the make disappears have come out. They definitely confidently cast that Fable. When before we've seen him hold up Bankbuster on turn three and not run into the counter spell.
yeah, I don't know the reason. All right.
And pitches a couple lands. Knows he'll find some more.
All right, is this a turn where you play? I mean, there's a lot of options, right? You can play Bankbuster and draw off of it. You can play Synthesizer to try to find a 2 or 3 drop to gain value.
I feel like I would start with the synthesizer because even if you had a shield you can use the treasure to cast it.
Yeah,
Uh, Lunga disagrees.
and now Re agrees.
Ow.
Disagrees.
Yeah. Interesting that he plays the. I guess just getting everything down. Okay.
Yeah, just getting the board filled.
Yeah. Feels like pretty significant on board advantage now at this point. So the onus on Goldicott with a full hand. Answer the battlefield,
It
and
might be
then
a braids, might just be putting your own stuff on the board as well.
yep. And Lawunga's got card advantage back in Takanuma and Experimentizer.
All right, let's see what their play is. Tapping 2, 3, or is it just a slam Sheldred? Both players are tapping and untapping mana, and is
Well, you gotta figure that favors Lavunga with the 3 minute clock advantage or
yes.
4 minute. Yeah, Goldicott, you gotta move.
I mean, 8 minutes to finish one game is definitely possible, but it's also possible for Labunga to beat him on that amount of time.
Yeah.
In the semifinals, 8 minutes to win 2 games, I don't think is going to happen.
Okay. There's an braid for the Bankbuster, and Lavunga getting a little punished for just running out his spells. Doesn't get a card out of that.
Yeah.
We've generally seen him prioritize making sure he gets those cards. I don't know why he changed.
All right. Well, with that final land, now you can slam that Sorn and play around make disappear,
Yeah, very
but
good
could
follow
get
up.
negated. No
Doesn't.
negate.
Really good spot here from Lavunga. Has the pressure. Is going to be able to start copying the Blood Tithe Harvester with Reflection and generating a bunch more tokens. Maybe there's a removal spell here. Siphon Insight. So
Yeah, and these are the problems with Siphon. Sometimes when you're behind, it's just a little slow. But I mean, if you hit a meat hook off of it, or if you just cast a meat hook here, obviously you want to get that Sorin off the board. That's problem number one. And I don't think there's a ton of answers to it, is there? Is there 4 soul transfers up to sideboard?
so we
But
got
it
two in the main and no more on the
so
sideboard.
if they're in there, there's only 2 answers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a little weak to I think that's probably the the weakness in Gul Dukat's list, like fewer creatures, doesn't have as many answers for Sorin, but the Siphon Insight could find soul transfers from Lavunga, especially if
Yeah.
he boarded more in. Oh, this could be a soul transfer. We're gonna have to look closely to see if Moto reveals who's
It'll go to the graveyard, so we'll
uh
tell who it goes to.
or the exile zone of it's exile, right? Yeah, soul transfer.
Well, soul transfer will go to the graveyard of the
Oh yeah,
owner.
that will go. And yeah, so Gold got down to 4 cards, but does have the one sitting in exile from the Siphon Insight. So really 5.
This is I hate when I'm in these situations on Magic Online. You have to win. Like these are spots. Wow. Soul transfer on the
And it was Goldugot's own.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Um, how did
Yeah,
the
that was owned by Lavunga. Yep.
okay? So hit a Blood Tithe Harvester off the Siphon Insight. Um, but with another Harvester in hand, Luinga can use the one that's now not summoning sick to deal with the action.
Do you know what I usually do in situations like this? This
Well,
is where I concede.
yeah,
I'm getting buried. I have to deal with a Sorin. I've got 6.5 minutes on my clock. I'm conceding and going to game 3. I don't know if it's the correct move. I've never known. I know a lot of people have different philosophies on it, but I'm not spending another second in this game. Because if Galdecott loses this game with 3 minutes left, there's no real way to win the game.
yeah. Even at 6.5, I mean,
It's not a lot. Because there is no route to victory off of just beatdown. You have to play a long game.
yeah.
Or actually, they're thinking, I have to win this game because I'm down to 6 minutes.
Yeah, they could be thinking they're already, that's
They've
still not enough.
Yeah,
So,
they spent 3 minutes, 4 minutes on development. They have to go for it.
and that's tough because like you have to go through the development to find out how strong your opponent's draw is.
Yeah.
So there's never really an early point where you can concede for time. And that, we've talked about Lavunga, knowing how to play his deck really well, and he's playing really quickly. Certainly more quickly than his opponents in all of these matches.
Yeah.
And part of that is, they haven't played against Rakdos Sacrifice a lot.
Exactly.
So they're trying to play on the fly a little bit. That's much harder. Usually, takes a little bit more time, a few extra minutes, and those few extra minutes a very big deal.
I've believed that they were important in all 3 matches in this
Yep.
top 8.
This game, Goldukot just didn't really come out of the gates with anything.
No.
Normally, when we've seen the Grixis player not develop something proactively on the first 3 turns, they've had the reactive cards to at least keep
Hmm.
parity. So I don't know exactly what Goldukot kept. It's not like he was. Sometimes in these grindy matchups, people are afraid to mulligan. Goldukot certainly wasn't in game 1. Went to
No.
5 and still won the game.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that'll be really impressive if that's the only game Liviga loses. Yeah.
Is the against a Molda 5?
Yeah. So unsure what Goldicott kept as opening hand this game, but it certainly didn't look like it played very well in the early turns.
It
And
seems like a lot of flood.
yeah, but hasn't
I guess
hasn't
a
really
lot of
had
spells have been cast.
hasn't really had any big sources of card advantage either. No Bankbuster.
No.
No, the Siphon Insight is one more card, but um,
Yep, Hurst being able to eat the flashback.
Yeah, we haven't triggered Corpse Appraiser at all. We haven't
I mean,
gotten our
that's
own
the power
Soren
of
down.
Hearst.
Yeah,
Hearst is backbreaking, and Lavunga only has 2 copies, but has found it in every post-Cyborg game.
yeah, agreed. And the game that, the games that have looked more difficult for him, win or lose, are the games when the Grixis player has triggered Corpse Appraiser
Yeah,
and gotten that engine online. Goldicott in game one was even copying it with Reflection. Is
what do
this
we have
a Meat
here?
Hook or a Soren?
I don't think it would be a meat hook.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Goldicott now in the red for time, 5 minutes or less. Complete your match. Sending in half the Goblin reserves.
Okay, that's a card that can end a game quickly, and I do not see an answer to it in Lunga's hand.
No. Well, we have seen it doesn't end it too quickly.
Yeah, but that's because of things like Meat Hook Massacre and Oni
Yeah,
Cult Anvil, and we don't see either of those either. Now, from Lunga's side, we could see this Hearst start getting in, try to pressure the other way.
and that's what we're gonna see. It's gonna eat 2 more things, and
And
it's
that's
very easy to
an
crew. That Oni cult off the top is gonna be able to crew it very easily.
another aspect for clock management. There's a lot of triggers in these matches. Fable triggers every turn. Uh, Shielded triggers every turn. Goblin shamans attacking. Activations of bloods and treasures.
It also seems like a lot of work in real life. Like,
Yeah,
it seems tedious each round.
but at least you can shortcut Meat Hook Massacre triggers.
Yeah.
Are we doubling up?
Yeah, just to braid it twice.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're a gold card, like I don't think you can win this game. So you might as well just concede and try to get a miracle. Maybe Lavunga's hand just isn't functional.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, like, what the game plan is,
Yeah.
unless you've already conceded. I mean, it's so hard to win a game with 4 minutes.
Yeah. And now, and Lavunga here, you could say like maybe you want to get aggressive with the hearse, but given the advantage he has on the clock, he's happy to keep playing a longer game. And there are some creatures in the graveyard. You don't want Corpse Appraiser to get going. So fine for him to play conservatively. That negate from Goldukad is going to be awful.
I mean, it can protect the reflections.
There's a harvester on the battlefield. Goldukad wants to get rid of one.
Yeah.
Will negate whatever this adversary targets, but it's still a 2-for-1 in favor of Lavunga, and this is a lopsided battlefield.
Yeah, and as long as Lamanga does not bleed 3 more minutes, there's just no way to catch back up. And Lavanga's been playing lightning speed the entire time.
Yeah. And with his opponents giving him this edge, he then has a little bit of a cushion to think through some more difficult turns. If you
Yes.
want to take 30 seconds, he has that luxury his opponents have not.
I don't want to call things before they're done too early. I did that with Vintage, and it was a big mistake. Big mistake. Um, yeah, I called a lot of turn one that's games, and I was wrong. To be fair, a lot of games did end on turn one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I do not know how to get out of this hole with the 3 minutes
Yeah.
buffer.
Okay. We could even crew the bank buster here to block, but I guess the braid is going to handle that. Or do we need to abrade
Just
the
ignoring it.
hearse? Braid taking out the reflection, sure. Like that's really threatening with the adversary.
I do not know the plan of not conceding and just playing it out.
Well, if you're going to take fewer actions for the remainder of this game, maybe you think there's no way I can win, but maybe I can narrow the gap on the clock.
That's fair.
because the gap is now, it was 3 or 4 minutes, it's now down to just over 2. And I think Lavunga recognizing that and is now choosing to get aggressive. No cards in hand for Gold Ducat. If you hit Corpse Appraisers, that's going to take more time off your clock to do. I'm just going to get this game over with. So I think we're just going to see some quick F6ing from Gold Ducat to gain a
Mhm.
few precious seconds. But the clock advantage is now under 2 minutes. Ooh, no, need to F6 quickly. Okay. No blocks.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting about sideboarding is that on level one, it's that well, Guldakat can't go aggressive. There really isn't the option. They're gonna
Well,
play their Shieldreds.
yeah, you got to bring in the Shieldreds.
Yep.
So, Lavunga, you're probably leaving an Infernal Grasp at that point.
Yes. You're gonna have slightly more removal, and you probably do have to have the Shieldreds, but I've been in these situations where sometimes you can go to the second level, depending on the deck list, and say, I'm actually gonna try to snowball you with value, and then with my last minute F6 a bunch of my creatures. And so when the opponent has a lot of the cheap removal, you just bring in a lot of the card advantage and try to get out ahead of them really early on that route and just have them stuck with a bunch of removal. Now, I just don't think these decks are capable of doing that because they really are just a smattering of removal and card advantage.
Yeah.
So you can't trick your opponent in any way.
There's no questing beasts to get aggressive.
Yeah, there's just no combination. Like I feel like if you just take all the lands, well, all the non-lands, shuffle them all together and present whatever combination of them with the lands, it's going to be comparable.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is the final game of this September Standard Series for Mana Traders. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us this weekend, chatting with us. Uh, we had a lot of fun. Standard actually is very complex and very technical, but it seems quite rewarding with both of these players, the best in the room in the finals.
And here we see both players keep 7, but Goldicott took about 5 or 10 seconds to do that. Lavunga took about 2.
I'm wondering
Uh-oh.
it could be internet.
Could be some mistap. Okay. A little mistapping there. Try to get that underdog down.
Oh, Siphon on the turn. Did they keep a two lander? Can you hover? Yep, owned by Lavunga. Yeah,
And
not as punishing.
having the aggressive start from Lavunga is great because now you're forcing Goldicott to play a longer game. And as long as you just make your decisions quickly, there shouldn't be enough time for Goldicott
Yeah.
to turn the game around and close it out.
Missed land.
Yeah, missing
Yeah,
land
need to
drops here.
tap two for the Shieldred or
This
Sorin.
looks like a Sorin. And I would suspect it makes a vampire.
Yeah.
Yep. And with still a healthy about minute 50 advantage to 2 minutes. That's all it took to swing this. 2 minutes of thinking on Golducott's part.
Sorin goes down, as well as Goldicott's life down to 9.
The vampire important here for keeping Lavunga's life relatively high because he has a very painful draw with 3 sulfur springs as his only black sources.
Oh, there's the Shieldred. Speaking of Sulphurous Springs, you've seen the new art, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, with the
With
the guy from the old ARP, but he's dead.
yes, it just bones. That's one of my favorites of
Uh
that. What a
oh.
good callback.
Just another siphon insight for Gold
And
Ducat,
that's
and yeah,
it.
sees the writing on the wall.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how much changes if we're playing an untimed match there. Deck lists probably change a little
Yeah.
bit. Does Gold Ducat maybe mulligan his hand?
I
I
mean,
don't know.
probably. I mean, in those situations, a lot of times where I feel like when the pressure's on me for that, I fold in some way and lose the match, and they haunt me forever, and I still think of them at night. But congratulations, Lavunga! Yeah.
That is an awkward situation to be in that game. They had a landlight hand and they needed
Mhm.
to use their siphon insights to get their opponent's lands, which means you're spending mana to not affect the battlefield and just make your land drops, falling very far behind.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that's something that you have to risk there because the hand is good if you draw the lands. But that was certainly a game where Lavunga was in the driver's seat right from the get go.
Oh, for sure. Driver's seat in the entire tournament takes it down. Been playing this deck. doing well in a lot of standard tournaments with this strategy. Rotation happened. They all said, you know what, whatever. I'm still going to be playing this strategy. Only what 5% of the metagame was playing this. I can't remember, Adrian, but
Like four
was
of our
Rakdos
players were
just
playing this deck.
4 players were playing? Yeah, 4 players.
We
That's
had
super impressive.
did one of them go 2-3, one go 4-3, so they evened out at 6-6, and then two of them, Luis Salvato and Matias Leverado, who's Lavunga, both go 5-2. So a
Yeah.
10-4 and a 6-6, 16 and 10. So 16 out of 26, 8 out of
We're
13,
we're live
a
on
little over
coverage.
60%.
Perfect. We're still live. People are watching.
Sure.
Okay.
They got their history lesson earlier. Now they get their math lesson.
I
We're fine.
love you. All right. No, honestly, congratulations to Lavunga for winning this month. We will see you in December for the Mana Traders December Invitational. I think Standard might just have a new dog to topple all this Grixis and Esper. This did not seem easy for them to combat.
No. We saw Goldicott do the best job of it. I think,
Mhm.
even on a multi 5 in that game one, that was the one person to take a game off of Lavunga, but I think pretty handily won the second game and looked to be crushing that game three, even without the clock issues. So really impressive stuff to bring this deck and say, you know what? Like I know Grixis is the most popular, best deck, Grixis and Esper. I think I beat both of them
Yep.
and certainly did.
All right. Well, I think that is a wrap for us this month. We'll be back next month with some Pioneer. I think I'll have Corey back in the booth, but thank you so much, Ross, for hanging out with me all month.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being our special guest. And of course, obviously, we couldn't be doing this without Adrian in the back. Please, everyone, give him some cheer, give him some praise. He deals with us, and I mean, I'm what's the term?
Needy,
That and
um,
um
self-centered,
not as much lately, but sure, I'll take it. What is it? A diva.
washed up.
Well, that for sure, 100%. That I'll fully admit. No, but Adrian deals with all of this. We couldn't do this without him. Thank you so much, Adrian, putting up with us with our that came through, I think. Perfect. I knew it would. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Corey and I will be back next month with some Pioneer action. Follow Mana Traders on Twitter if you want to be a part of this series. You can also exclamation Bash Bros for the Bash Bros code for 15% off your first 2 months if you want to get in on all the action next month, which will be Pioneer. Get qualified for December, and you can hear us talk about you, which I think they want that. Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
I
All
would
right.
want that.
We talk about you.
To be fair, I also talk about me. I just think in somewhat different tones.
Yes. All right. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll be back next month. See ya.